part of the issue.
Oh, it didn't tell me I needed to update.
Maybe you don't.
Yeah. App settings. I'm getting a second opinion from my husband.
Okay, Donna, while you're trying to figure that out, we're gonna call the meeting to order.
Okay.
All right, this is the May 17th, 2023, no anchor, Town of Hideout Planning Commission meeting. First thing is that this meeting does not have a permanent anchor site due to the COVID restrictions that is still pursuant. There's a letter on file at Town Hall if anybody wants to see it in regard that relates to this. Okay, now we'll take roll call. Glynis. Here. Donna.
Here.
Jonathan.
Here.
Rachel.
Here.
Joel.
Here.
Peter.
Here.
Thank you. Okay, first thing on to take care of is, does anybody have anything to say in regard to the copy of the meeting minutes from last month? Okay, that there being nothing to discuss in regard to that, does anybody want to make a motion to accept the minutes from the April 17th meeting?
I'll make a motion to accept.
Thank you, Rachel. Does anybody second it?
I will.
Thank you, Jonathan. Glynis,
Yes.
Anna,
Yes.
Jonathan,
Yes.
Rachel,
Yes.
Joel,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes. Sorry.
Tony
slow
is a
mute.
yes also. Okay, therefore the meeting minutes from April 17th have been approved and accepted. Okay, number 4 on the list, the agenda items. Before we start, folks, and this is for everybody who's on in regard to making public statements or has an item on, because of the length of the calendar for tonight, we're going to try and limit everybody to 30 minutes for each topic. If we don't get through everything that you need, we will put it on the calendar for next month, unless something comes up that is an emergency, and then we can have a special meeting. Okay, just want to let everybody know that going forward, so nobody cries foul or anything. If they, at 29 minutes, I'm asking them to start wrapping it up because they're getting close. Okay, first thing on the agenda item number 1, discussion of a concept plan for potential development, Hideout Point. Okay.
All right. Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I'll tell you what, I will walk through my staff report pretty quickly in the interest of time. This is a project that is located near the entrance of Deer Springs Phase 1, for those of you that are aware of that development. Obviously, it's kind of at the entrance right on Bellevue Way. So this is an applicant. It's a 2-acre site. It is currently zone mountain. The applicant is presenting, wishes to present, Ty Frisbee is here, he's the applicant, wishes to present a concept plan to get input and direction relative to a proposal to look at a rezone, a future rezone. Again, this is a concept plan review, but and for input, but an opportunity to get input relative to a proposed rezone that would rezone this commercial and allow for a mix of uses on the site. The site is, as I said, 2 acres right now. It's zone mountain, so it's allowed 1 unit per acre, 1 residential unit per acre. The proposed density would be for, you can go down to the next page if this is Alicia, I think. Thank you. The proposed density is for 6 units of flexible commercial space that could be kind of a bit of a shop space, 2 units kind of for garage, warehouse, storage space, and 5 nightly rental cabin units. It is worth noting that nightly rentals are not an allowed use in the town of Hideout right now. It is something that is being discussed at both the Planning Commission and the Town Council level, but right now we don't have any allowances for nightly rentals. Again, this is for concept review and input. At 2 acres, this would put the density at about 6.5 units per acre. It'd be a total of about 13 units of density for the entire site. Most of the residential development that would be proposed here would be for nightly rental, concentrated on the south side of the site. You can scroll down a little bit, Alicia. You could see there that map. You can start to see where it's located, kind of at the bottom of Deer Springs. Just to the west of this site is the Creekside annexation. That was a proposal that's been brought to both Planning Commission and Town Council at one time or another over the course of the past 2 or 3 years. That is for residential development. It's pretty sensitive lands down there. There's been some discussion at both Planning Commission and Town Council level with regard to, there's been some concerns with regard to the environmental nature of that area. And so that applicant is kind of asked for to withdraw at this point, but may resubmit. So just, again, a map to give you a little bit of context of the area.
Hey, Tom, can I ask a quick question? Is this the lot on Bellevue where there's the sign for 2 acres for sale? Is that what we're talking about?
Yes, that is
Okay,
it. Yeah,
thank you.
that's exactly right.
Okay,
And it's kind of got the slope that drops back to the creek behind it. That's
Right.
exactly.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So as we look through concept plan review, I wanted to include the general plan statements relative to goals for preservation of natural views, preservation of natural landscape, economic goals, which can be fulfilled by commercial development, et cetera. Let's see, you can scroll down. I'll try to do this very quickly. There are some concerns by staff relative to the amount of density being proposed for the site in that location, given that it is at the entrance of the Deer Springs neighborhood, which is primarily townhome and single-family residential neighborhood. Also some concerns regarding the slopes on this property and the fact that it is the stormwater collection point, the creek behind it, for this area that does, of course, deposit into the Jordanelle. Let's see here. Staff also had some concerns relative to the layout of the concept plan. I know it's a concept plan, but the parking was right off of Bellevue, which would mean cars would pull in, park, and then back out onto the street to exit. It's not a huge issue right now, given that the Deer Springs is not fully built out, but when it is built out, there will be more than 200 units in that area, and it could be a bit of an issue. So anything that happens on this site, I think an additional parking or traffic analysis should be conducted, or a different form for parking configuration and layout should be explored. We would need to better understand proposed open space, et cetera, and get an understanding of architecture and design preferences for this site. This site is close to where you all heard the discussion relative to a town center site on the 10 acres that we own right at Bellevue and Shoreline. So this is near that area. Anything that happens here should have pretty strict requirements in terms of architectural design and character standards, just because it is very, very close to what is being proposed on the town center property for the 10 acres that are designated as the town center. So again, as we looked at this one's really hard for us to get our head around from the staff perspective. It's got a lot of density. It's in a tough location, tucked into the neighborhood. Steep slopes behind it. The environmental issues are, we think, a little bit challenging. Right now, it's hard for us to give a positive recommendation from a staff perspective. Why don't I leave it there before we go into any more detail, give Ty some opportunity to present to you, unless you guys have any specific questions for me. I walked through that pretty quickly.
Tom, it's Peter. You're saying that it's going to be sort of commercial as in / retail with some office and these cabins? Did I get that right?
Yeah, it would, right now it's being proposed for all of that and maybe some kind of maybe boat storage or boat repair or boat. I can let Ty give probably more detail, but there could be an area for maybe boat storage behind it. So it's kind of got a mix of uses, right?
Mm-hmm.
Normally a mix of uses is pretty good. These uses are a little bit challenging in that we don't allow nightly rentals right now. And we also don't really have an allowance outside of our light industrial that may accommodate boat storage or boat repair. So that's something that we would have to look into. All of that has led us to a negative recommendation for this at this point, the way it's been presented, because we don't have anything that really accommodates that right now. And so it's a mix of uses, and I'm sure Ty can give you probably a little bit more detail than I can. If nothing else, Ty, why don't I give you maybe 5 or so minutes to maybe walk through anything relative to the concept plan that you think is important for the commissioners to hear, and maybe see if there are any questions.
Yeah, okay. Can I share my screen?
Alicia, yeah. Give us-
Okay, yeah, thanks, Thomas, and thank you all for your time here tonight and for your consideration on this concept plan that we've put together. Worked hard to try and provide a detailed concept plan to really try and help understand what we're proposing, as it is a little bit of a different concept, I think, that probably than what maybe a lot of you have seen. But I'll try to be quick. I have a few things I want to say here. Just kind of run through maybe a little bit of background on the property. My name's Ty Frisbee. I've worked as a civil engineer in this area for a long time. I've been involved in a lot of the surrounding development projects at one stage or another. And the land, this 2-acre property that we own here was actually at one time was part of a bigger ranch that was owned by my dad's uncle. And the ranch is now underwater, but my dad spent his youth working summers up on the ranch here. So we're kind of tied to this property. We bought it more than 10 years ago, this 2-acre piece. My wife and I originally planned to just build a house there and, have a little bit of land, a place to keep our horses and some animals. But, as it's developed out around it, the character of the land has really changed. And so we've spent a lot of time here trying to think about what maybe what we think some of the best uses are for the property. I think Thomas mentioned, but just looking at kind of the surrounding area here, this just overlays a concept plan on kind of the surrounding area map and shows the Deer Springs project that's to the north, that is adjacent to the property. We're adjacent to the town property where the maintenance building and yard is here. And of course, the state park and some open space related to Deer Springs that surrounds us. So the property was annexed into the town a few years ago by Deer Springs. And we weren't a party to that annexation. It just happened as part of their annexation. We also weren't included in their master plan for Deer Springs, so it kind of just came in as this out parcel. at the base zoning. And so, which does work for a house or a couple of houses, but would obviously need to be rezoned to do something that we think is provides, I guess, really for us some more opportunity to maintain ownership and be able to utilize this land for some of the things that we want to do, as well as, we think providing some benefit to the surrounding community. And so that's kind of what's driven the development of this concept. I think it was mentioned, I've had a sign up on the property for over a year now, just to kind of generate some interest and feedback, I guess, from, I get regular calls from real estate people, and really get asked two questions. One is, how much for the land? And I try to explain that, well, we're really not actively trying to sell it. But then the next question is always, well, how many townhouses can you put on it? That's really where the market is and what's profitable right now. And so we've wanted to do something a little different here. And again, that's kind of what's been driving our concept. So I think I approached the town, probably almost 2 years ago now, to discuss, the potential for really doing more of a mixed use type of project that could include some commercial use here. And a lot of the response that came back was that, we needed to get some more public input and have some more planning processes, really before we could propose that. And I think some of those things have happened with some of the community outreach, and some of the planning is ongoing with the town property there. And so, we're really trying to look for a way to move forward on our project here. One of the things that we've talked a lot about and made some significant efforts was to try and work with the town property and really try and mesh these two projects. That hasn't really happened, but we're definitely open to working and trying to make that process work and be able to make these two properties mesh. I think this property, the concept that we're proposing here, we feel like it could really stand on its own, but we also think that it could be a benefit to the town property, really just by establishing some lighter commercial use here, which could help attract more economically beneficial uses for the town property. Something like a nice restaurant or small retail. I think would be more attracted to this area where there's some more established traffic and, well, hopefully not vehicle traffic, but foot traffic maybe, or just some more of a destination, I guess, is what I'm looking for there. So a couple of things, and I wanted to get to here. Let's see. I think one of the things that we talked about was, for zoning, Thomas mentioned the land use goals. So part of the submittal we provided was kind of a matrix analysis of all of the different goals in the general plan, and some description of how we can meet those goals with this project. So I guess I would just, sorry about that, encourage you to look through that, and if there's any questions about it here tonight, I'm happy to answer that. As far as the concept plan, just a couple of things that I'll touch on here just to try and clarify, because I do think it has been a little bit confusing in the nature of the use. And so really what we're proposing with these 8 units is a flexible commercial space. And so it kind of breaks this up into some smaller commercial units, multi-level units that within each unit could also be allowed some separate uses. So for example, with one unit would be required to have a storefront business in the unit, but also the upstairs, upper level could be allowed as an apartment, loft or apartment use. And also with the multi-level, there could be multiple small businesses that could utilize different portions of the space. And so what it does is it really provides a lot of flexibility in getting these spaces utilized, and especially in an area that's probably not a strong draw for commercial, but it would be able to provide some neighborhood commercial type uses that we think would be good for the area here. So part of this is a couple of things that we want to do with this property are to be able to provide a space here for, sorry, getting my screen to work, a coffee shop slash ice cream shop in this area. We've had some discussions with potential operators here to try and understand the feasibility of that. And there's some challenges to that. That really looks like that's something that would have to be supported by the development, at least, especially initially to get that going. But it's really a use that we're committed to, just because I really like the idea there of, having a place in the town where you could go and get a coffee or stop for an ice cream and have a place where you could sit and enjoy the views and the atmosphere in the town. So that's really something that we're committed to doing as part of the project. The other piece that is really something that we want to do, the units in the back here that are pull-through units are really designed specifically. I think Thomas said, kind of mentioned maybe storage, but really the concept that we're designing that for is a boat sharing recreational business. We have a family business that does recreational rentals. That's mainly side-by-sides kind of thing, but right now, but that's not a suitable use for this area. What we've really seen is that with the cost of new boats going really through the roof, that there's a lot of demand for kind of this boat sharing concept. And then so these aren't big units. We could really only accommodate up to about 6 boats in both of these units combined. But that's a business that we're very interested in pursuing here. So just, and I'm probably running out of time, but just want to run through quickly some of the other uses that we could see coming in here. Private gym or yoga, or hair and nail or day spa type uses, artisan studios, especially with the ability to do an apartment, some kind of recreational shops, or potential I heard office, we don't want this to be, any kind of like a true office space, but, some more of a flexible live workspace where you're able to live in the same space as the, business and your day job is in, is an idea that's becoming pretty popular and more. And, I think that is a good fit for this area. The cabins area over here is probably the area that would be our future phase of the project. We don't have really a full design of these units, or not exactly sure of this concept. I know Thomas mentioned the challenges of doing nightly rentals, but some of the feedback that we've gotten is that, the concept of a small modern style cabin, especially one that has views of the lake, is something that would be extremely popular and something that was set up for nightly rental. It would also be a really popular product. So, that's what we're proposing, but we have other thoughts of things that could be, that could go here. One idea would be like a small bed and breakfast style type of a building, or also some additional flex commercial space. So it's something that we're very open to looking at. So I guess just a couple of more quick comments here. I just wanted to go back to, I guess, kind of the density. I know in the staff report, it looks like it was kind of computed in a couple of different ways. And so, I guess a couple of my thoughts are, one, the density in terms of the number of units Thomas mentioned is very high. It can be looked at multiple different ways in terms of ERUs. That's much more comparable to some of the other projects in the area. And, in my opinion, from kind of the overall perspective, it doesn't seem really out of line with some of the surrounding properties. There's really is a minimum density and number of units that we would need to get to be able to make this project work. Just one or two units there just isn't really something that works economically. And so that's part of what's driving it. And the other thing that, that I looked at in really trying to kind of lay out the density or establish a density here is the base density as far as building mass. And I know I mentioned that in my comments, but really with the base zoning of 1 acre lots, that would allow essentially up to 24,000 square feet of building coverage in a main residence and accessory building. And my experience in this area is that pretty much any lot that's available will get built out to the maximum extent possible. And so, I think another way of looking at this is that, what we're proposing as far as actual building mass is less than, excuse me, the footprint and building mass for 2 1 acre lots. So I think that just kind of provides some other context there as far as the density. Thomas mentioned the proximity with the existing residential with the Deer Springs. We're really open to looking at any kind of solutions that we can utilize to, provide buffers or some, kind of barriers to really help alleviate that issue. Again, with the, kind of the parking issue, we feel like these 12 spaces here is pretty close to the density of the spacing of driveways. So we don't really feel like it's out of character for the rest of the roadway. But if and having the head-in parking would provide a lot of convenience, but we could look at alternatives for parking, such as maybe some parallel parking off of the road and utilizing some of the side spaces and could easily meet the parking requirements for the project in another configuration. And then I guess I'll just say, as far as the sensitive lands, I think I've read the sensitive lands ordinance, and I'm confident that we can meet the requirements of the zoning, and very familiar with the water quality issues, and committed to working with the town's engineer and in meeting those requirements and utilizing some, hopefully some innovative technologies and meeting the water quality requirements here. So I think with that, Thomas, that's all I have at this point.
Thank you, Ty. Do any of the commissioners have any questions for Ty?
I do. Have you assessed what will happen to the view of the houses on Bellevue, the houses opposite this development on Bellevue Way? I'm referring to the 5, 6, 7 or so houses. If you're going up 2 stories, what's going to happen to their view?
Well, we have looked at that in terms of trying to mitigate that. So it's from the front view, front side, these are 2-story units. Utilizing a flat roof also helps us keep that height as low as we can. We haven't done any specific view studies, but the mountain view from these units is really at an up angle. So, these are 3-level units from the road, whereas these are 2-level units from the road. So from your upper 2 levels with the up angle, you'll still get mountain views. But I guess the thing that I would say related to that is, when you're out here on Bellevue, from other than inside the unit, as soon as you come out on the balcony, the best view, in my opinion, is really straight down the road to the lake. And that view is not impacted at all by anything that we do here. I would say we have looked at that and are trying to be sensitive to that. But something will get built here, even in the base zoning scenario, I guess. And so there's, we can try to mitigate it, but there may be some impact as far as the mountain view, but really no impact as far as the lake view.
Hey, Ty, are you envisioning that these units are like the units off of Frontage Road, all that development that's going on? And those are all 2-level units, apartments upstairs, commercial use downstairs. So plumbing companies use it. There's a gym there. Is that sort of I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. I can't think of the name of the street.
Forestdale Road.
Forestdale Road, right. Is that what
Yeah,
you're envisioning
yes.
here?
Yeah, there's a lot of this very same kind of product there on Forestdale. Now, I would say, I've looked through a lot of those projects, and I think when you drive through it, what I noticed is that they really aren't any, I guess I would say, much of an industrial type of use, but there are some construction companies. And when I see those, you know, that's where you see the trucks parked outside or trailers or equipment. We would restrict any type of construction company or contractor here, because I don't like that. You know, I think we would want to restrict the parking and to have no overnight parking of business vehicles or trailers or equipment outside of the units. Now, you know, if there's an apartment, then you know, there could be vehicles parked outside overnight. But you know, our goal would really be to avoid any kind of industrial look or feel here, and even in the recreational business, all of those units would be stored inside overnight at all times.
And you were thinking that you're going to limit the number of retail frontage units or not?
Well, there would really only be the 6.
No, but I'm saying of the 6, I thought you were saying that you just let 1 or 2 have retail frontage, or did I misunderstand that?
No, I think we would want all of them to really have at least some kind of a storefront business, you know, whether that's a retail or a service type of a business. But we would encourage, you know, having 6 different businesses, with one of them being a coffee shop, ice cream type, you know,
Right.
shop here is really the goal.
Okay, thank you.
Does anybody else have any other questions for Ty?
I would offer a couple of comments if that's appropriate.
Go right ahead, Jonathan.
You know, when I saw this, I looked at it. I'll share with you my impressions for whatever they're worth. I kind of feel like you've got too much density for the existing neighborhood. I'm worried about cars backing out of those spots in the front into the roadway. Kids and other people coming down on bikes makes me a little nervous. I would urge you to consider, you know, eliminating units 7 and 8, pushing the whole thing back a little bit to give you know, a little more parking maneuvering room, and perhaps cutting down the number of residential units. But boy, for this neighborhood, I think this is just an awful lot of density. And it's difficult for me to kind of get behind that. And then certainly I would urge you to figure out some kind of barrier, some kind of you know, a barrier between the home to the left of the project, you know, there, so that they're not having to, you know, deal with some commercial issues. But those are my impressions and suggestions for your consideration.
Thank you.
Yeah, you got one thing to think about, Ty. Like, I'm certain, I assume you know this now. Bellevue now connects up to the Jordanelle Parkway, right? And he's going to build whatever hundreds of units along there, and this is going to become a fairly trafficked area for people cutting through and getting up to the Jordanelle to go over to Mayflower, to go out to Midway. And I'm just concerned that we're just putting a lot of traffic stress on this not so big road, and it will have stress, and now we'll have more stress with this. So I don't know how to address that, but that was what I was thinking when I looked at this. There's not a lot of traffic now, but there will be in the next 24 to 36 months as stuff gets built out and people realize that you can cut through that way. You know, the people cut through to Richardson Flat that way. There's a lot of reasons why this Bellevue Road is going to get busy.
Yeah, I guess,
Especially with the summer coming, if they're going to start ripping up 248 all the way up from 40 all the way up into town.
Right.
yeah, I guess the one comment I would offer there is really the goal here is to try and reduce a lot of the trips into Park City by providing some of those convenience services and businesses at this location. So, I think you could see some offsetting reductions in some of that traffic as well by having, some of those services at this location.
I think we definitely do need the commercial space. I think it was more how densely you're packing things here.
And also, I'd like to make a comment. One thing that really stood out to me with these 6 units is that, if you're going to have like a yoga studio or, several people, maybe 5, 6, 10 people in an ice cream store, you're going to need more parking than 12 spots for 6 units at one time. If you're going to have a workout class or whatever, I mean, you're going to have a minimum of 12 people right there driving. And I just was concerned that they're going to start parking along Bellevue, considering this is a residential neighborhood. I am concerned about the neighbors, feelings about this. And also the other thing was, I understand why you put the flat roofs on, but to me, that just looks very cold, uninviting. It looks very industrial. And I know I have been in one of those units across the street from where you're proposing, and you are correct. There are, it's up 2 levels, but the 3rd level is basically just a loft and 2 bedrooms and, minimal views because you're so up high. But I don't know if whatever's going to be across the street, I would really like to see a little bit more eye pleasing, especially for the neighbors. They're pleasing to the eye, you know what I'm saying? So that's what I have to say about that.
Yeah, and we're happy to look at the architecture. I think the concept was pretty rough, but we did try to put some thought and effort into something that was that I think is appealing, but we're certainly open to working through that process.
And I appreciate your efforts on that. I do understand what you were trying to do.
Thanks.
Hey, Ty, one last question from me.
Mhm.
It's a fairly steep drop off as I understand the property, right? So like how far below the road are these what you call the cabins, right? Let's call them unit 1 through 5, it looks like. How far below the road are they?
There really aren't that below the road at all. They're before the drop off. So
Oh, really? Okay.
yeah, let me just go to this. This isn't exactly correct, but I think this perspective just kind of shows, this corner of the property is where the slope gets pretty steep, where we've left the open space to stay off of that. But as far as where these units are located, it's a pretty flat area, and they do step gradually, but they're pretty much at the road elevation.
Okay.
Where's the gas line in relation to that last drawing you had?
The water line, I'm sorry, or the major gas line that
There's a
runs.
pipeline right near there, right near the cabins, as I recall.
Yes,
Do you think that locates that?
I can try and show you on this map because they have a.
There's got to be an easement associated with that, right?
Right, and there's no easement across this property. You can see right over here, they have gas facility, above ground gas facilities right here. And that runs directly to their other facility right here. So it runs right through there. And it's on the other side of, there's also a high pressure water line that runs through here, but the gas is on the other side of that. And,
Okay, thank
and
you.
both of those are off of the property. Yeah.
Thank you.
Ty, one question I have is just that you don't show anything for any open space anywhere like that. Especially if you're gonna have rental units there for them to use. And not only here, if it ever gets to the point where you're in front of the town council, you're gonna certainly get some pushback from members of the council on that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, we were. I wasn't sure how, this is a small property, and so as far as how much useful open space could really be provided here, in term, this meaningful, I guess, is a question I have, and I'm happy to look at that, something like a pocket park or something like that just really didn't seem to fit the area. And I guess, especially, considering that the property is really surrounded by open space and on two sides, and really adjacent to the very usable open space of the state park. So in terms of usability, I didn't see that, but we are providing some open space areas here that could be vegetated. I guess the other thing that I didn't mention, there's a paved trail that comes down here in an easement. That trail ends right in here, and then continues across the property. And so, that's an opportunity for us to provide an easement for that trail and enhance that vegetation and try to protect that trail, which connects to all, the mountain bike trails in the area and part of the overall circulation.
Thank you.
Hi, are you set on the flex commercial space? I mean, would you entertain the idea of putting just straight residential in there? As I look at it, it is right across from these three homes and directly next to another home. To me, it just seems more like a residential space. Maybe on the far right side of this property, some flex space, but this, to me, where you have your flex commercial, it just looks very residential to me. Not talking density. Maybe there could be a little more density than the surrounding homes, but have you considered that?
Yes, I think it would be very easy to do residential here. That's really not a question. It really wasn't what we wanted to do with the property. Really this was geared more around us having a property that could support the things that we wanted to do here and be able to utilize this property for those things. So, but I would say at this point, I mean, we're open. We are at a point where we need to move ahead with something on this property with developing it or selling it or whatever we're going to do. I haven't wanted to sell it. That has not been my desire. But we do need to move ahead with something, and so we're open to any suggestions.
Could you just go back and explain? You said you've had the sign out there for sale for 2 years, but you really didn't want to sell it. So what was the purpose for you to have that sign up, which is still up?
Well, it doesn't say for sale. It says looking for joint venture partners or investors. And so we've had,
So that's what it was. Okay, I got it.
I've had a lot of developers call about wanting to do a joint venture. Frankly, all of them have wanted to do townhouses on the property.
I mean, isn't the Deer Waters, Deer Springs guys the logical buyer of this? Or they're not
They
interested?
have not approached me, so I would
Okay.
say no is probably the answer to that.
Okay.
I have a suggestion, but I don't know if it's feasible, but what I'd love to see on the area where the cabins are is just like one restaurant with a nice patio that overlooks the lake. Is that something that you've considered at all? It would lower the density and it would give the town a really good venue.
I would say no, I haven't specifically considered that. Mainly, I think just because of the challenges with the restaurant industry, it would have to be, we'd have to find the right partners to make that work. And I think the way things are in that area currently, I mean, I'll just say from my perspective, I think that the town's property is probably better suited for having, a real nice restaurant or, a sit down place that really captures the views and the experience than over here. But I'm happy to go back and look at that and provide some further feedback. It's really not something that I think we considered. Really just thinking that I'm not even sure that we could currently support even a cafe. I think maybe the thought was if it starts as kind of a coffee shop with ice cream, that maybe at some point that develops into maybe a small cafe or type of a use. I think it's something we could look at and provide further feedback on, I guess.
In light of Peter's comment, or maybe it was Joel, about the cabins, maybe if the cabins were closer to the houses and the commercial more to where the cabins are, that might be a better setup. Kind of as a segue into the single family homes. I like the one entrance to the right where it is. I'm not liking the other one so much. And I'm not a fan of the driveways in the front. I think it looks better if the parking is in the behind the building. So those are just my comments, I guess. And deciding what to put in these spaces here might be better to wait to see what the town ends up putting in before deciding what to put in here. Just my thoughts.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that. I would say, as far as waiting for the town, after 2 years of waiting for the town, I'm not sure that that's really viable for us. We probably need to move forward one way or the other. Maybe that could happen more quickly, but at this point I'm not sure about that. And as far as swapping the uses, I can see that, but really what's the driving this layout, well, there's a couple of things driving the layout. One is the residential or rental type units really want the views of the lake, and so that side is the side that has the lake views. And also if you go out there and look at the property, I think the one thing you really notice is how this big flat area out here. I don't know if you've noticed from some of the town events, but you know, that really, when the town has had those summer events, all of the parking has been basically head-in parking right along the frontage of this, has been full of cars for parking for those town concerts. So it just, you know, feels more like from the site perspective where that wants to be.
So maybe what I can do, I know we're getting up on time a little bit. What I could do is work a little bit with Ty and see if there are some opportunities to maybe reconfigure. I mean, certainly this property right now has the right to be developed for two single family units, just like the units that are to the left of it on the image. Certainly that is the existing by right opportunity. But maybe what we could do is I could coordinate with Ty a little bit and we could see if there is a way to maybe look at this a little bit differently, taking into account what you guys have noted relative to architecture, site layout, the parking, et cetera. Something that I do want to make sure that everybody is aware of is right now we don't have the zoning to do what is proposed for most of the commercial units or the nightly rental units. Right now, we just don't have that allowance in our code. So before we would move forward, we would have to have a discussion that would be independent of this relative to those kinds of lighter industrial uses, those lease kinds of uses, if it were for, you know, day use of boats, or again, the nightly rentals in the cabins. Right now, we don't have any of that allowances in our.
Thank you, Thomas.
Say it again.
I said, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah. So I'll coordinate with Ty.
Yeah, I would just say, sorry on that, Thomas, we really want to restrict any type of industrial. So I guess when I hear that, I just.
No, I understand
really not
industrial, but
concept.
even our light industrial wouldn't even allow right now the kind of proposal that you've got in place for the boats or different kinds of rentals. We would have to look at that as a use, as a district designation that might be creating a new designation. That is not something that the town wanted to do 2 years ago in terms of allowing those kinds of uses in this area. So that would be something that we would have to coordinate with the planning commission from a more holistic, not just looking at this particular site plan, but looking at holistically, are those the kinds of uses that we want to incorporate into the neighborhoods? To date, that hasn't been the case. But I'll coordinate with Ty and we'll go from there. I know we're up on time, sorry.
Thank you. All right, item number 2,
Thank you.
presentation and discussion of an updated concept plan and potential annexation of the Benlock Ranch property.
All right.
Thomas, do you want to go over what, or your report?
Yep, why don't I go through this pretty quickly? Just again, by way of background for a couple of the new commissioners. The Benlock Ranch is it's about a 2,300 acre development that is to the southeast of this, to the southeast of the town. They have had discussions with the community regarding possible annexation back in November. They presented a concept plan to the Planning Commission that was heard on December 1st, actually. That concept plan kind of outlined at a very high level what the developers are currently working toward under their current jurisdiction, which is Wasatch County. And so basically what they did is kind of walk through the, Alicia, if you go to the next page, that'll help the commissioners, kind of walk through what they thought could be built in this area. As you can see here, about 1,500 single family units, a hotel, some golf course, open space and lodge, community lodge, kids ranch, and so about 65,000 square feet of commercial development. So that is a conceptual proposal that they're generally working through with Wasatch County right now. Again, as they look at annexation and with a petition to annex into the town of Hideout, what the applicants wanted to do was bring forward a slightly updated, a more detailed version of that concept plan. There's not a vote with regard to this evening, and it's not looking at the annexation per se right now. We're really just looking at the concept plan. I'll let the applicants walk you through that. You could see there on the image where Benlock Ranch is located relative to the town of Hideout. That is within the annexation expansion area. And so this has the potential for expansion. If you go to the next page, Alicia. Why don't we skip through that? Let's go to the concept plan. That'll help the commissioners get a little bit of a better understanding. There you go, of what's being proposed. You can see here that this is a significant development. Parts of this are underway, as I understand it. Parts of phase one, which is kind of up at the top of this image. I can't annotate yet, but give me one sec. It's kind of at the top of this image, is underway, I think, in terms of its initial construction. I'll let the applicants walk through that, but really this is an opportunity for you to get a sense of phasing. We've got some questions outlined in the staff report with the exact number of ERUs, residential units, that would be associated with each phase. And I think it would be helpful for us tonight. The applicants may not have the answer, but to get a much more definitive understanding of what's currently proposed and approved within Wasatch County, and what would be any of the differences, if there are any, with regard to the proposed concept plan relative to annexing into Hideout. With that being said, why don't I turn it over? I think Jason is on, or yeah, Jason is here. I think Jimmy McKay is here, and let's see who else. And maybe a couple of others from their team. Maybe you guys could help walk the planning commissioners through this. And just before you jump into that, did the commissioners have any questions for me? That was really high level, but that's really where we're starting tonight. Jason or Jamie or Patrick, any information you wanted to convey, any clarifications? I know we had some issues for discussion in the staff report. I'm not sure if you were able to address those or if that's something that we would do at the next meeting, but I'll turn the floor over to you.
No, Thomas, this is Jason. We appreciate the time and opportunity coming for Planning Commission. So we did submit an application for concept subdivision approval and requested or submitted a petition for annexation. We understand that there were quite a few documents, quite a bit of information that we submitted, and just wanted to take this opportunity to visit with the Planning Commission to see if there's any, what additional information that you would like to see. What questions do you have, so that we can work on gathering that additional information as we prepare to go through the annexation process and the public hearing process. And that's really our intent tonight, is to understand what additional questions you may have from the information that we've submitted thus far. And Jamie and Patrick are on, and we'll be able to answer some of the questions that Thomas did outline in the staff report.
Jason, just a real quick thing before the commissioners jump in. Is phase one under construction right now? Am I right in saying that?
And Patrick and Jamie, do you guys want to answer that question as far as the phasing?
Yeah, this is Jamie. Can you guys hear me now?
Hey, Jamie.
Hey, Thomas. Thank you guys and commissioners for your time. Yeah, phase one's under construction. Phase two's under construction. We continue to complete, I guess, what I call robust landscaping. I love trees and that kind of stuff. So we've been doing some very, I guess, finishing the entries and the A-seal, D-seal lanes, all that stuff, and then kind of tightening the entrance up, along with all of the. We're working on our new and revised trail plan. I mean, yeah, it's never ending. It's a large development, and so there's a lot to it, and it's ever evolving. But we are under construction on phase one and phase two. And that's where we're at currently. And we're looking to annex the Hideout because we feel like there's a little bit more, I guess, open-minded planning, and I guess, I don't know, just the evolution of development, I feel, is a little bit more where I want to go with this. And so that's why we're doing this, and that's why we're here tonight. And open forum, you guys are allowed to, I mean, ask me for anything you guys need, and I'm happy to answer it.
And Jason, I think that, or I'm sorry, Jamie, I think that for this, Alicia, could you scroll up just a little bit? I think that just so the commissioners are clear, or scroll down, I'm sorry, the other way. You're proposing about 1,903 total units. That includes the multifamily, that includes single family, casitas, cottages, single family duplexes, townhomes, everything. Is that right?
Well, there's 2,046 ERUs currently in our approved development agreement with Wasatch County.
Okay.
And within that, I mean, there's a diverse product type. So we're still tweaking our plan, and we're talking about doing a little bit of multifamily, downsizing some homes, like I previously said before, to possibly accommodate some de facto workforce or affordable housing that they're not all 8,000 square feet or 12,000 square feet or whatever. I mean, there could be some stuff that's, 800 square feet or 1,200 square feet, something bite-sized where, people can live and work and be a part of the community. So that's one of the things that we're working on now. And that's going to, obviously be part of the ERU count and bifurcating those just like it's allowed with Wasatch County. So the previous development was entitled, I believe, for 3,200 and something units. So that's inclusive of like hotel rooms and I guess probably restaurant and this, that, and the other. I don't have those exact calculations or numbers in front of me, but it's not cut and dry right now, because as you know, it's a large development. It's going to take 8 to 14 years or whatever to develop. So that'll evolve. But yeah, there's quite a few units. But yeah, we have 2,046 ERUs currently that will be in the overall plan. Some of the ERUs have been sold. So yeah.
Could you scroll up just a little, Alicia, back to the map? Just I did have a quick question. The area on the right-hand side here, this is part of Benlock Ranch, but it's not part of Benlock Ranch that would be annexed. Am I right about that?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. And this is actually, is this area being developed right now by others? Is that?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. And so the 2,000-ish units, does that include these units or does it not include these units?
It does not include those units. And I believe that's about 630 units, give or take, over there.
Okay, so Alicia, if you scroll down just a little bit, I think I outlined that correctly. I was not entirely sure, but it looks like if you scroll down, Alicia, you'll see down here, I think I outlined, the units about 600, and I think you're right, 630 or so. That is not part of the annexation area. It's part of Benlock Ranch as the development is known, but not part of the annexation area and being developed by others. Okay. Commissioners, if you have any thoughts, input.
Jamie, just out of curiosity, where in the 8 to 14 year plan that you have, does the commercial come into play to get developed?
I think they both have to correlate with one another. And then that's something we've been kind of wrestling with for the last, I guess, year and a half. I mean, commercial does have to come with the residential to kind of support what we're doing out here, because we're kind of, it's a big development, and we want to sustain and obviously people get like a gallon of milk or cheese or whatever they want to get at a grocery store, or rent a mountain bike or whatever they want to do there, rather than go down 40 and SR 32 and all that stuff. So we're trying to, I mean, we don't want to contain everyone there on site at all times, but it's more or less like we want people to, I guess, buy certain items, this, that, and the other, and keep traffic off the road as any smart developer would. So I think that along with like the 156 homes in phase one and the about, like, call it 100 in phase two, 250 homes, we're about touching the area. We're going to start building the lodge, and then we're going to start building with that would be a restaurant and some things like that, pools and all that stuff for the residents of Benlock Ranch. And then I think we'd break open, probably our first thing would be a grocery store of some type. That would be a kind of a smaller, grocery store of that kind. And then after that, I think they would just like cascade as more land was sold, if that makes sense.
Yep. All right. Thank you.
Will this be a gated community?
We have gates, but there's no, well, they're more like bridges. So there's no gates on them.
Okay. So I just was wondering if like people from residents from Victory Ranch and maybe Francis can use the commercial space also. Easy access would be available.
Yeah, sure. For sure at the very at the entrance where all the commercial, that's not gated, that's open. There's actually some large water features and kind of fun stuff for kids and whoever, paddleboarding, all that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, all that will be open to the public for sure.
How about the golf course?
That was my next question.
I know, I was waiting for that one too. That is in flux, as probably everyone would know. I mean, with the economy and what's going on now, no one knows what's really about to take place. And so the golf course kind of like sitting on hold. I mean, we've discussed like a reversible par 9 or 9-hole reversible. We're talked about all sorts of stuff. So the golf course is TBD. We don't know what we're doing up there. So I can't really answer that without being, I don't want to deceive anyone, but I would imagine, depending on what we bring in up there, it's probably going to be a fairly high end golf course. And yeah, I mean, I'm open to discussion about some type of, I know there's been some way to have some, I guess, public play during certain times or certain hours or whatever, but I find that to be difficult, etc. But yeah, I mean, the golf course, we really don't know. We have no like finite or like build plans to construct that as of yet. So we have a concept plan from the previous development that was approved, and yeah, that was gated and that was very high end, etc., etc. At this time, we are in limbo, but yeah, we're trying to figure out if another golf course is needed to sell the real estate that we have, because it's fantastic. It's absolutely stunning up there. So we don't know if it's actually a necessity, but I mean, someone comes along and wants to fund and buy a golf course and a phase or two and this, that, and the other, then I can't answer the questions that they're going to want to include with their golf course plan.
Considering, there's numerous private courses in the area, Victory Ranch and Hay, two examples. If there was a golf course here, you had asked what we would like to see. Well, I would like to see this golf course open to all Hideout residents, at least, if that was to happen, if not public. I don't think we need another high-end private golf course where you could play for $200 a round or $250 a round. I don't think that's not what we need here.
Yeah,
Jamie, just a question. Basically, what you're saying is it's in the concept plan to maybe be built, but There's no guarantee that it'll ever see the light of day.
True, yeah, exactly. So I mean, it wasn't in my initial plans. I was like, I'm not, I've never heard of very many golf course developers making it out with their shirt on their back, so I wasn't excited about that one. So yeah,
I'm just asking that because you have it on the plan that you're presenting to us.
Right.
Is the equestrian center in the same boat?
wait, repeat that again, sorry.
Is the equestrian center that's on there in the same boat as the golf course?
I mean, I think the equestrian center is going to be a more easy, fun, ride some horses, have some fun. So, are you asking if the equestrian center would be private?
No, I'm just saying, is it in the same boat as the golf course?
I think he's asking, is it more likely that you build the equestrian center than you build the golf course at this point? Right, Tony?
Yes or no?
Yeah,
Didn't you-
I think the equestrian center's a value add because it's kind of like we're kind of going for this ranch aesthetic, I guess, in a way. And then so I don't think there's any harm in having some horses and some barns up there, and then people can ride off the back, and then there's tons of trails and everything to go on. So, I mean, we do need to create some amenities up there, right? I mean, I've been looking at and all sorts of stuff to like bring people up and down and do some, sledding and all sorts of stuff. And, people not having to buy ski tickets at, Deer Valley for $200 a day also. So, yeah, I mean, everything is in flux, but, we're building amenities. I'll guarantee you that if you pull in Benlock, you can tell that we're not doing a bad job. I mean, just by our entrances, you can tell that we're not messing around. So we're not here to just fly in and out. We're here to stay.
But have you not marketed Benlock Ranch as having golf in it? Isn't that part of the marketing brochure or not?
Not in my marketing brochure, no.
Okay.
I mean, there's a few people that were looking to buy it, and I think they tried to market it before they bought it and kind of jumped the gun a little bit. But yeah.
Okay.
Are all the homes or casitas or different whatever, are they shown on here? Like if I counted all those little squares, would I come up with the 504 units?
No, you would not. You're looking at a platted area that's Talisman that's already platted and approved and done. And then the rest are basically nodal bubbles that are like, okay, we're going to do this many areas here or this many areas.
Oh,
And,
okay.
as things move along, things change a little bit. So we don't want to tie ourselves down to a certain exact plan. And hopefully you guys don't either, because we don't want to have this conversation again and again and again. We want to be like, if we're changing the plan drastically, of course, like, let's talk again. But if we're moving 40 areas from this side of the ranch to this side of the ranch, it's not a big deal. That should be done at a planning and staff level. But that's our thought process.
When you're looking at this plat, the single family homes that you've been selling over the last, call it 36 months, where are they on this plat?
Whoever just did that with the red hit the nail on the head. So there's that red at the very top of the page there. It's like a clover, and then there's like a kind of a diamond shaped thing. The diamonds, no one's selling anything there quite yet, but the two bulbs, that's where the 156 homes that we've sold through, I think 138 of them or something, like 100, but right, 140 of them. Yeah.
Okay.
So Jamie, essentially phase 1 and phase 2 that are under construction, those are platted, those are defined, those are the areas in red. The rest of the areas are yet to be platted. They're somewhat conceptual, like we've got these ERUs here, we've got some here, but these are not yet platted, right?
That is correct. Yes.
I think you said you have roughly 140 homes sold. I drove through there the other day and I could only see 2, perhaps 3 active construction sites. Is there something globally that's holding up the construction there, or is that just people something else?
It was a heavy winter, and we had actually all the roads did very well. The drainage system worked, and our detention and retention ponds worked great. So honestly, it really just dried out. I think we're about to come out of the ground with about 8 or 10, I think, next week, and then another 30 next week. So I mean, it's about to really take hold here pretty quick.
Okay, and what does, if you know, you're right next to Heber City there, what does coming to Hideout do for you? What is it that is it making you consider, at least, coming into Hideout as opposed to, you know, Heber City or some other municipality?
I think I covered this before, but I'm happy to answer it again. We feel that Heber City had they're barraged by probably everybody, right? And so there's a lot of annexations coming at them. My initial conversations, I think, with the mayor and I guess Thomas and whoever it seemed very dynamic, and it felt like I was in a room with people that were like-minded, and I felt like it was a better choice or a better municipality to work with. I mean, honestly, that's what was the decision. Yeah.
Okay, because I'm just curious, because we have fewer town services than some others, and so I was just trying to understand why us as opposed to others. That's all.
Yeah. I like the name.
Okay.
So I'm having a hard time kind of seeing, so we're kind of looking at a concept plan, but it's already under construction. And what about things like, are there any areas where you might need a variance to the 6-foot retaining wall? Or what are the road widths that you're planning? Those kind of things. Like, does most of what you're planning kind of fit within what our town regulations are?
To answer your question, yes, I think most of them fit within your box. I mean, I think we have a few, I don't even know if they're asks or if they're just items that we feel that will make a better overall development for Wasatch County, Heber, Hideout, Utah in general. More nodal development, more open space than most developments you'll ever see. And so when you do that, you kind of cluster development, right? And that does take some more terracing and some, retaining wall things of that nature. Nothing that's going to be outlandish and crazy. So I don't think you're going to see anything that's going to be startling to you guys whatsoever.
Do you, when you, since this is these kind of pods, do you go in and just kind of make it dirt and then build, or do you keep some of the natural brush that's there?
I mean, yeah, of course we keep as much natural brush and any vegetation that's there as much as we can. I'm not knocking on the other side of the mountain that I look across. I still have yet to figure out what they're doing across the mountain. That's a massive project in 2A, but we're not in the business of tearing the mountain apart. I mean, of course, vegetation that we have, we'd like to keep, because revegetating in the high desert is not exactly ideal for utilization of water.
Mm-hmm.
We're very cognizant of that, and we're not interested in pulverizing the place. But I mean, there will be grading, there will be revegetation, and myself from a previous job that and company I own. I'm in tune with landscaping and all those things. So we're going to make sure it's done right, and we're going to, drought tolerant vegetation, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, we're not going to make some contrived thing that doesn't fit with the topography and the natural landscape up there.
Jamie, would it be possible? I know we had discussed it. It was probably a few months ago, and during the winter, it didn't really work out. Would it be possible for the planning commissioners to have a site visit?
No, you guys missed your chance. That was a long time
That was
ago.
it? Okay, so
Yeah,
just the snow visit?
Yeah, I told you guys to bring your sleds. No, you guys can come out anytime. Like I said, it's not gated, so welcome. Come on in. You're not going into Victory and with your passcodes or whatever. So you're welcome to tour it whenever sure, yeah, you go to phase 1 and 2 and drive around all you want. But if you start kind of moving your way up the mountain, you might meet a couple of cowboys that are running equipment and start asking questions. But happy to do an open house with you guys whenever you guys want. Anytime. Yeah. The gates are open.
Okay.
Are there any other questions from any of the other commissioners?
I had one quick question. What is being built on that property next to you at Benlock Ranch that's not being annexed? What type of homes or what's being built there?
Pardon me. I can't speak to exactly what they're up to, but I'm sure. I'm pretty sure it's probably going to be townhomes, condos, single family homes, residential development.
Okay, thank you.
Jamie, you have a time frame when you can submit an updated plan for review?
I think we're pretty close to doing that, and that's what we've been kind of dialing in, because we just want to come at it once, and
Yeah,
you guys.
no, I understand that. I just was curious as to the time frame that you're looking at.
Yeah, I think it's pardon me. It's in the coming days. It's already kind of almost ready. There's a few things in flux or whatever that we're shifting and moving. So I think it'll be in front of you guys here in short order within the next week or so.
Okay, thank you.
So my question, well, I guess if you guys see these nodes, is that something? Obviously we're not going to engineer and develop out a phase that's maybe call it 7 years out. So you're going to see something very similar to this, but with more detail, and hopefully that's acceptable. Is that something that we should address now, or what are your thoughts, Commissioner?
No, I would certainly like to see something in the areas that you're developing, like phase 1 and phase 2, that's a little bit more developed, in regard to timeframes, any type of trails or open spaces, and along with the commercial stuff that, as you said, it goes hand in hand with what you're already developing.
Okay. Yeah, we have renderings and all that of what we're planning there, and those areas kind of planned out. So, and we have, I don't know how many plans we have, but we have a lot of them. But try to consolidate that into something that you guys can digest.
I would suggest, along what Tony said, if you could put together a map like this, it would show, what's in each phase, how far out you estimate, completion for each phase or start of each phase. So we can get a better feel, because the impression I'm getting is the commercial is way far out there. Residential seems to be the priority, and the commercial is kind of Well, we'll get there when we get there. And so I'd like to see a plan for that.
Yeah, I understood. I don't think the commercial's that far out there. I think it's just, you don't build a grocery store before you get a house frame. So it's coming, but it's just, it's all time by time. So yeah, happy to do that.
Along
Jamie, I'd
that line,
also
if there are any particularly challenging topographical, environmental or other issues, if you can have a map of those so we can get a feel for, what it is you're going to be asking for, I think that would be helpful as well.
Yeah, I mean, the whole, we have the topo for the entire mountain, so that's all done. Yeah, there's nothing like that we haven't already done, so happy to include that.
I think right along that line, Jamie, as we kind of move through this, you've got the phases that don't yet have platting, but maybe even an opportunity to start to think about what that may look like, not exact platting, but what it might look like in terms of a mix of single families versus towns versus multifamily, et cetera. It could almost be a zoom in on what you have here with just a little bit more detail. And then I think that it would also maybe help. I think that the nodal concept is ideal. I think the Planning Commission will support that, but just helping to understand maybe which areas are kind of going to be untouched, untouched in terms of not masqueraded, not really developed. You've got a number of areas that may be untouched, which is, I think, a benefit to the way this plan is laid out too. I think that would help.
That's a great, and what in Hideout's what, like 30% open space? Am I correct?
For subdivisions, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, that's one good thing we have. So yeah, we'll get on that and make sure that we understand and kind of share that with you. Cause yeah, we're showing these like, I guess blobs or whatever they are, right? But more fine-tuned of what we think is going to be in those and unit types, and maybe like you said, like a zoom in, and then a more of a broader discussion of how much open space we're going to provide throughout the entire community would be helpful.
Yeah, I think that's great because you have some really nice open spaces that kind of differentiate and separate and create kind of these kind of distinct, discrete neighborhoods, which is, I think, benefit how you're using the landscape.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's not just wall to wall homes. So it's just like a little gap. But yeah. So yeah, we're happy to share that with you for sure.
I have a question. Do we have financial data on the maintenance of the roads, and will this property be self financially maintained by like the HOAs, or I'm just questioning whether it's gonna be costing the town as far as, I mean, has there been a financial analysis? Do we have that information?
We did a financial analysis by a third party, and I believe that's been circulated. And we discussed it in a few previous meetings, I guess, or Zooms, that we would be taking on that burden with the HOA and not throwing that on the town of Hideout until we met some type of tipping point that it made sense. Like, okay, the tax revenue got to here and it balanced out and tipped this way. And so we understand that we're gonna have to be self-sufficient till a certain time. And that's what we've, I think, proposed previously. And there are revenue generation information out there that we have, and I think it's been circulated. If you don't have it, then I'm sure that Thomas would be happy to provide that.
Rachel, they did submit that as part of their annexation petition, so you guys will see that. Again, tonight is really just the concept plan, but as part of the annexation petition, there is a requirement pursuant to the town's application process for that they submit a fiscal impact analysis, and so they have prepared that. You guys will see that when we present the annexation at your next meeting.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you want it early, of course, we can send the packet out so you guys can take a look at it. But they did submit that, and so if there's additional information that will be necessary or that you guys would like to see, we can also work with them to coordinate that.
All right, thank you.
Are there any other questions from any of the commissioners? Jamie, thank you. I look forward to seeing the quote unquote drill down concept plan.
You got it. We actually have quite a few, we have a lot of stuff and yeah, didn't want to overwhelm you tonight, so we'll look forward to talking soon and thank you for your time.
Have a good night.
Cheers, you guys
Thank you.
too. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is public hearing. Part open for public hearing. Also discuss and make a recommendation to the town council regarding an amendment of the official town of Hideout zoning map to rezone parcels for the Bloom in Hideout development from mountain zone to neighborhood mixed use. Residential, resident 3, residential 6, and mountain residential 20. And neighborhood preservation.
Tony, where is Bloom and Hideout? Where is that?
Right across the street.
It-
Halfway between Tuhey and the entrance to Hideout Canyon.
Okay, got
It
it.
still has the sign up for the boulders.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, so you could see it outlined here in red on the map. It's that 112-ish acres, kind of just north of Tuhey, but yeah, as Tony noted, kind of the southeast end of town.
And this is the parcel that we had the presentation on last time?
That's right.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So just want to make sure I got it all correct.
Yeah, and so actually, while Alicia's, I'll give you guys a quick overview of the proposed zoning discussion. Actually, Alicia, if you could go back to that map, that would help me just a little bit. Right there, so you can see that this is a map of the site. You can see that this triangle portion in red is the site, the 40-ish acres that includes the existing house. The existing house is in this area. That area is not proposed to be rezoned. It's really just the 72-ish acres, 72-ish acres on the east side of that site. That's what you see outlined in red there. If you want to scroll up, Alicia, to the beginning kind of introduction and background, you can see the uses, or I'm sorry, the zoning designations that are being proposed. So you'll see neighborhood mixed use for the hotel commercial area, mountain residential for a couple of estate lots that would meet that size, i.e. a minimum of 1 acre. There's some R3 residential 3 for some less than 1 acre single family detached units. The R6 is for the almost 100 townhomes. And then there is a natural preservation zoning designation for the open space amphitheater area. And then you'll see the second one up from the bottom there with the asterisk is a newly proposed zone, residential casitas. So if you guys remember from the concept plan last month, there is an area up in the higher elevations of the development that is for casita development. And we don't have a casita zone. Believe it or not, in the town's old zoning designation, we did. We had it in the ordinance, but we actually never had it on the map. We just never used. And so we would need to create that as an independent proposal by the Planning Commission as a recommendation, as a recommending body to the council to create an RC zone for residential casita. And then, of course, that would be, assuming that went through, that would be the applicable zoning for the area on the map where the casitas are. But that's just not a zoning district that we have right now. Actually, if you scroll down, Alicia, this might help the commissioners. Go to the zoning map and I can talk around that map. Keep going a little bit more. So there's the map, and if I don't know, Alicia, if you can zoom in just a little bit, it's a little bit small, but you can see this is the concept plan, but right up in this area up here are where the casitas are. You can remember, if you guys remember the concept plan, the idea was they would tuck some of the casitas into the natural landscape, preserve as much of the vegetation as they could, and kind of create that unique experience for visitors. So that's that area. Alicia, if you scroll down, I can get you. Go one more. That's the existing property that's going to remain as mountain. And that was just a demonstration of 1 acre lots that could be carved out of that area. Okay, but the applicants are not proposing to do that, but it is just what is currently allowed by right. So here's the zoning. You could see in the area where we have initially, there was a thought that we would use neighborhood mixed use to get the casitas in there because of their nightly rental characteristic and because of their density and their size. We didn't have a zoning designation for them. And so initially we wrote in NMU. Since that time, we discussed creating the new residential casita. So our recommendation would be in those areas of pink. This would be residential casita, if I can get my map to draw. So this would be the new RC zone here. The NM, remember, this is to Highway 248 down here. This is the entrance. This would be NMU, which is neighborhood mixed use. Again, that's commercial. This area here is the area primarily for, include this area here for the townhomes. That would be R6. That just achieves the density. Mountain residential would be for these 2 estate lots right here. And then the remainder would be SF3, residential 3, single family, smaller than 1 acre lot developments. This area here would be neighborhood preservation as proposed. So that's the zoning map. Again, it ties in pretty darn nicely to the concept plan, and kudos to the applicants. They worked really hard with us, their engineers, their designers, to draw these lines time and time again to get them as closely as possible to align to the concept plan. I don't know if you guys have any questions for me. If not, Ryan and Jenny are here. They can certainly answer questions that are probably more specific than I can answer relative to the project. But this is generally the zoning map that's being proposed. Keep in mind, you're not voting on this tonight. They'll bring it back to the next meeting for a vote. In conjunction with this zoning map, there will be a master development agreement, an MDA, that would really outline the details of what is being proposed, start to really kind of look at phasing development, what that timing might be, when infrastructure would go in as well, because all of that is part and parcel to the proposed zoning map. And so we presented to you next meeting.
I do have a question. So because I'm new to this, just focusing on the casitas, that's changing zoning, asking for a zoning change up there.
Yeah, all of this is asking for a zoning change. Just to be clear, everything you see here is currently zoned mountain residential, which is 1 unit per acre. So based on the head nod by the Planning Commission to look at an upzone for the eastern portion of the site, what would that look like in terms of zoning designations that would allow that concept plan to be fulfilled? That's what you're seeing in front of you. So all 72-ish of those acres are being proposed to be rezoned.
And in the rezone of the casitas, is the proposal that the rezoning permits nightly rentals, or that happens outside of zoning?
It would have, well, that discussion could be part of an MDA, but we're also having a nightly rental discussion later on tonight as well, because there have been other areas under consideration for nightly rental in the community. So it's probably a both and. It could be part of the MDA, this, and a larger townwide discussion regarding nightly rentals.
Okay, thank you.
So Thomas,
all of this development is being proposed for nightly rental, just to be clear, whether it's the townhomes or the single families, even in the NMU, all of this is being proposed as a resort style development.
Okay, that's clear. Thank you.
Jenny.
Do you mind if we talk for a second? Thank you for introducing that.
You're welcome. Go ahead.
Okay, so thank you, Planning Commission. And I know this is a public meeting as well. So there's a few people that weren't privy to what we have presented. So what I'd love to do is just spend 5 minutes on really high level talking through the project and essence of this. For Ryan and I, we're very passionate about this project. We love Hideout. We are planning to live in the house and be neighbors to all of you and see you at the commercial that we're going to bring. We really, time is of the essence here to get this deal done. And so we're working with Thomas and the city on this. And all of you have been so great at giving us feedback, and hopefully we've been answering it and it's been helping us get through. So really our goal for tonight is to hear anything that you have that's come up. So what we need to do after tonight is meet with Thomas and Polly at the city and get this master development agreement done as quickly as possible, and then present it next time with this zoning. And we want all of your concerns as much told to us tonight so we can streamline that as quickly as possible for the next meeting and present you something that the community will love. And we are looking at this as a we, not an us against you. We're here to listen tonight and hear. So that's why I think it's really good if I give a quick overview, educate all of you as quickly as possible, talk about the zoning, and I think it should match everything that we've mentioned. There's no surprises in here, so I think we can do this pretty quickly. So if it's okay, I'm going to share my screen and just go over the really high level. Here we go. And so this was submitted with our zoning application. So just letting you know that Bloom and Hideout, we are looking at this 72 acres as a resort development. Now, it's really important to use the word resort development instead of residential development. And that's why we're asking for the overlay of nightly rentals allowed here. The clientele that we're trying to attract is the 40 to 60-year-old demographic, second home, that love lifestyle and outdoors, that you want to sit next to at your coffee store and get stimulated. That's why we all love this area, is because of our neighbors that we meet. So we really want this development to attract those type of people to our area, which attracts the commercial that we want to attract as well, if we can say, hey, this is the demographic that we're bringing. So this is a resort development. Now, the importance of that with zoning is that there is no surprises. So if we do end up selling the townhomes to individuals and they use it as a second home, great, they know that they can overnight rent it. If they decide to use it as a permanent home, there's no surprises to them that their next door neighbor may be using it. So we want to be very upfront that everyone who chooses to invest in this knows exactly the demographic and what the aim of this development is. So going to the concept vision, this is what we pitched and you all helped us with and gave us feedback, and we came back with. Everything's the same there, and we just did overlay the zonings that best matched, and we worked with Thomas on this. I do want to bring up, Joel had a comment about the 5 casitas on the left-hand side that was separate to the 50. I believe it was Joel. If I got that wrong, it was someone that brought that up at the end. We do want to let you know that we did think about that. Now, we have decided that those 5 casitas will be more for our guests to come and visit us. They're going to be more guest houses over there. They're zoned casita zoning because of the sizing. So in the zoning, it limits what you can build, the size, and what they're going to look like. So that is the zoning. But Joel, we just wanted to let you know that we agreed that that didn't really feel like it would be part of the resort and people walking across. So they're size-wise going to be casita sizes, but they will be more guest houses and really work with the land. For those of you, the house on the left-hand side is where we'll be living, and the rooms look back at that area. So we will be very incentivized to make it work with the land and not be ugly there at all. So I just wanted to make sure you know that we listen to you, and that's the plan, and put that out in the public space. And so that will probably be in the master development agreement as well, saying that that will not be part of the resort. They will be individual casitas. So then the commercial village is where you enter. This is really exciting for us, and we have right now 35,000 square feet. We do know this is very important to Hideout in the community, and we, good and bad, are really good at selling commercial and a vision. and may get even more interest in this as we've been talking. So just letting you know, we also don't want surprises, but we are definitely trying to attract a really great commercial here. And just wanted to bring up the topic in front of everyone that there could be an ask for more if we get amazing vendors that are really showing interest as well. Right now, we're finding we are talking to people that are competing with Mayflower, Pendry. So they're sort of the people that we're talking to, and they all have a decision to make. So it is competitive out there, but we believe, and we'll lean in really hard, and we'll keep you guys all updated on that. The vision for that, so what we're asking for is neighborhood mixed use. And so this is examples of what would be in that. So a 3-day market, everything you need for sort of 3 days of living, a coffee store, potential retail outlets, small businesses, maybe that's nails or an art place, art gallery, health or wellness, could be yoga. We did talk about a banquet room that would allow weddings, so 80 to 120, 130 type facility there. High-end wine club is Ryan's passion there with storage lockers. Restaurants, we would love to have 2 potentially rooftop decks as well. Event facility there is that banquet room. Oops, put that there twice. Sorry about that. And then potential small pop-up vendors, which would be Sunday market potential. So in the zoning in the master development agreement, we would like to allow the small vendors to be able to come for that type of usage as well. Then we have the landscape hotel. As you know, we do have an interested party in an LOI, and they are ready to start building as soon as we get their tax parcel and everything and all the approvals. So time is of the essence with that as well, but they are in and excited, see the vision, and we cannot wait to announce more about who they are. The townhome and residences, they will be, if you see on the plan, this vision has several, but they will be 2, so they will be duplexes. We are going to be asking for rooftops that are flat allowable in the zoning and in the master development agreement. We would love rooftop decks, and just making these high-end, really encapsulating what Hideout is, the views of the lake, Timpanogos, the mountains, but also the evening stars as well, is something that is just so special about where we all live there. The single family homes, and so that would be an R3 for most of them, and R3 is 3 per acre, so a minimum of 0.3 acres. And so we have 14 of those, and 2 on mountain regional. And the reason mountain residential, the reason we kept them zoned that is because they're on over 1 acre. So we didn't think we needed to change that. These will be luxury townhomes, and they will be designed for second home potential. So when you say designed for that, a lot of the designs like the Claim, Shoreline are 3 bedrooms. So when you're looking at more a luxury second home that someone can rent out to just sort of cover their costs of having a second home, a 4-bedroom with less storage attracts that really high-end finishes that they see in their $5 to $30 million homes, because we're looking for someone who can afford to buy a second home that's around the 2 million range. So these will be very luxury townhomes that would then attract that type of clientele to come and visit and experience the community as well. Community space. So very excited about the natural preservation zoning. We would like to have in the master development agreement that we could utilize these as event spaces, so outdoor concerts or the Sunday market, or even events for the community, like experiences around Christmas. What do we do at Christmas in Hideout? Do we have a Santa Claus event where all the kids can come? Do we have an Easter egg hunt on Easter? So we'd love to use those areas for neighborhood events, but also commercial events as well. If we could attract large corporate retreats at the hotel, maybe they can use the beautiful flat landscape on the hill in the middle as a place for them to host the retreat for executives or something like that. So that's in our zoning master development agreement, what we want to talk about. So these are the potential uses that we had on there. Then we go to the Casita Resort, and that would be working with the land and a very relaxed, think peaceful versus busy. So this is a place for people to get away and recharge and just be with this beautiful land and nature. And they'll be built with the land in mind first. So on this concept, you see the glass ceiling, so you can see the night sky and just really refresh and recharge in these casitas. Casita amenities. So this is important in the zoning of the casitas. It is really a landscape hotel. So attracting potential sea levels and their retreats of all of their board members, let's say 10 people, having a place for them to come together and have food be able to be cooked there, or having a very small restaurant that seats maybe 30 people. So that's where the zoning, the residential 20 zoning didn't quite fit because it didn't allow for those things. And then the neighborhood mixed use didn't quite fit because it didn't have the zoning of the building requirements and things like that. So that's where we're really excited to utilize the Casita zoning for the Casita area. And so this talks a little bit more about what would be needed in that, and that would be in our master development agreement if it wasn't in the zoning. So that is the high level overview. Did I get back to us now?
There you go.
Okay.
You did. Yeah.
Okay, so then if we can pull up the zoning again, I'm hoping that will allow for questions and what our goal is of speaking publicly. We would love to hear anything anyone desires, so we can really get this moving through to the next step.
This is Glynis. I think you guys have done a great job. The zoning fits. On the east side though, I know right now it's mountain residential, but I was wondering if we could make part of it the NP, the preserved portion, and then part of it leave as mountain residential.
So right now, we're not touching the zoning on that. To come up with a plan is a cost to us and time to meet with a land planner. We have no plans to do anything with that and would rather spend the expenses of going through these meetings and planning that area with intention. And so we would prefer to keep the house and that land just out of this discussion. We're happy to.
Just talking this land here.
Oh no, aren't you talking about the house?
No, I'm not. I am talking that land over there because.
Sorry, we're over there. Ryan and I are both.
Yeah, which land? Can you be clear? What land are we talking about?
I'm talking about the
zone market.
The MR zone on the eastern side of the property.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's
So,
I think that's the western side, the eastern.
Oh,
Right.
yes, you're right. You're right.
So
You're
below
right.
those
I
two
used to
lots, correctly.
No, I'm talking about the one that Thomas just circled.
Okay. So yeah.
And I guess, I know you don't want to touch that and you don't want it part of the discussion, but I kind of want it part of the discussion because like, I feel like we're to some extent giving you, something you can work with. And I'm just asking for something in return.
Yeah, so when you say giving us, so this right area is zoned mountain residential, and we could build 50 1-acre buildings with infrastructure on there. Ryan and I are builders of houses. We could make very quickly a lot of money off that. We feel like we've turned this into our full-time job of getting this development through. Doing a development is a full-time job. We've found and identified a hotel for the community. We are bringing commercial which is bringing over, if it's all built out, about $960,000 of sales tax and property tax to the city every year. So over 25 years, it's almost $25 million we are bringing to the city. We're offering to put a trail through our personal house property to connect Hideout. So we're donating about could be 10 acres of land. We are making that a trail through our property. So we just do want to, we appreciate it, but we do want to let everyone know we feel like we're a we in this. We're not feeling like we're asking for this zoning to not be the best thing for all of us together. The house is something, and that land that we need to close on with a lender that is currently as it's zoned as a house. So to go and change the value of that by taking away acreage of the land will complicate this deal when we have no, right now it's all land, it's a house on land. We have no intention to put anything on it. But it's a value, it's a large amount of money we're paying. If people want to pay to keep open space, that would be great, but we are definitely investing a lot of money in a property that now, at the worst case, if Ryan and I got hit by buses and someone else bought this, would then need to be brought in front of all of you, and all of you would have to approve it. So I hope that helps answer.
And so that's also why we worked up that exhibit with how many houses, the max potential on this piece of property. Just to reiterate, we have 0 plans to build any houses on this. We'd like to keep the option to build a barn or guest house or things that would go along with the property like this. The 5 casitas in the back would probably function more as guest houses type of a thing for us. So it's not like we want to even necessarily have plans for that right now. But that's why we showed that the max I think you could put on there was 25 with the current zoning, just to show the worst case scenario. We would just like to keep it as is, and just leave it. It'll stay open. If we ever need to build anything there or develop it, we'd have to come back to the city. Also, UDOT, the current entrance, there's not enough space between Hideout to put a turn lane or to really even do any development in there of scale. So, I mean, I think there's a few factors that are against even putting something there in the future. We would like to just not even mess with it or get bogged down by it and just kind of leave it as it is.
Can I drill down on the number you threw out of the $960,000 of tax revenue?
Yeah.
Is that you projecting that from the 35,000 square feet of commercial space, or you're projecting that from hotel and nightly rental? Where you come, and can you just help me get to that number?
Yeah, it's and we have a pro forma that we sent to the EDC that and they've got this pro forma. The hotel, so there's sales tax and there's a hotel tax that's added on top of that for casitas, for hotels. So that's where nightly rentals can become pretty fruitful for a city. Then the commercial is the sales tax revenue. And then there's the property tax. It's a lot smaller, but on such a scale like this and an end value of what this is, it actually becomes quite a large number. So I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I can take the time to bring them up. It ends up being around 600,000-ish for sales tax revenue with overnightly rentals. And the numbers and predictions of this are from our hotel partner. And we actually decrease them. So these are very extremely conservative numbers as well. We decrease them for the casitas, and we also have the short-term rental, probably I think it's like at 10%. We drop down the numbers a lot. So these are very conservative numbers to get around the 600 a year for sales tax and 300-ish for the property tax too.
So yeah, the commercial is just a portion of that, and it's spread out amongst the hotel, the the resort, kind of the whole property.
Right, and on the 35,000 square feet, you used a phrase which I'm unfamiliar with, a 3-day market.
Oh, yeah.
Right, and I understand what that is, right? But sort of how big a space of the 35,000, how much square footage do you allocate to that?
Originally, we had 25,000 in the plans. And that was, if you think of a small space as 2,000 square feet, a market would probably be 4,000 square feet. But if you think of 6 to 8 2,000 square foot places, and then 3 or 4 of them being double the size, around 4,000 square feet, but you have the option to, I mean, we can expand if it becomes, you can expand that to 6,000. But each one of those pads, I believe, is a 5,000 square foot footprint on this plan on the bottom left. So as you enter the roadway on the left, you see 1, 2, 3, 4, sort of around the parking area there. And they're around a 5,000 square foot footprint. So if you go up 2 levels, then that was the 20,000. No, I must be doing the math wrong because it ended up being 35,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember what they were? It was 2 levels that they equaled the 35,000.
Right.
Yeah. Thomas is talking, but I can't hear you.
I'm trying to remember the math on this one, actually. I think you've got roughly the 4 buildings there, so you're probably looking at 5-ish, 4,000-ish square foot pads, give or take, I think, right? So 16, double that would be 2 stories of commercial.
Right.
32, I think, give or take, yeah.
You're right. If it's 5,000 each, that's 40,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And right now they're placeholders, you know, they will
Yeah.
take shape as we have the end user on that.
I think you also had some potential, maybe there could be a restaurant or something in the hotel as well, which would add some additional square feet. It could be 2 to 5 or whatever the number was, I think.
Yeah, we did have that. Our hotel partner is very concentrated on just the accommodations. So that's when we moved and we upped the commercial to the 35 from the 2025, so that we could make sure we really want restaurant in this facility. So if the hotel's not going to do it, we wanted to move it over to the commercial area.
Because the hotel is limited service. I think that's what he said last time, right?
Correct.
Right.
So Jenny, you asked for issues, kinds of things we'd like to see in the final plan, because time obviously is of the essence, and I understand that. I generally like the concept, but I would like to see, I've got a list of things I'd like to see you address when you come back. And obviously, I think these things need to make it into the MDA.
Yeah.
And so my laundry list, if you will, since you asked for it, is number 1, I want to see concrete, solid proof that you've got the water for each phase before you start each phase. Water and sewage. You know, the JSSD has been raising some issues with some other projects, but I'd like to see concrete proof that water and sewer are not going to be an issue before you start any phase. I'd like to see the commercial spaces end up in phase 1. With respect to roofs, I'd like to see a limit of maybe no more than 15% flat roofs, somewhere around there. A hard phasing plan that describes exactly what's going to be in each phase, you know, with a reasonable description of each phase. And a list of major code or zoning issues that you think you're facing. You know, if you think you're going to need a 20-foot wall somewhere, or you think you're going to need some big variance from the road requirements, or whatever it is, not for everything, just the big ones, you know, what's going to be a major challenge. And lastly, I'm hoping you'll reconsider some type of limit to the development to the west side. I think you said you roughly could do 25 there, 25 homes, maybe agree to 15 in the form of a conservation easement, something of that nature. I know there are some other commissioners that have a similar sentiment. I don't want to steal their thunder, but you asked for a list, and those are my thoughts.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
This is exactly what we need. So that's great.
Agree on all that. Commercial phase 1, love that. The roofs, that's not a hard and fast. We're definitely open to working with that. I'd like to hear your background maybe on that, or what your thoughts are, what you don't like, or why you think a flat roof is less desirable than maybe a gabled roof.
Well, I think it was one of my fellow commissioners that mentioned on the last project, the flat roofs just aren't as, I'm not sure the right adjective, but they're just not as attractive as some kind of slanted, some kind of roof. The town has an anti-monotony clause for a reason. And I think that, the more slants, the more edges, it gives the town more texture. It gives it more character. And so that's kind of what my thinking is.
Okay. Yeah. Well, good to know. I think part of our design is large windows, which probably breaks that up. It makes it even more inviting, but it's, like I said, it's good to know, something that we can work with for sure. Variance asks, we will get that. Top of my head, I don't think there's going to be a lot. We've really worked with the land well as far as grading, staying away from the steeper slopes. The main areas that are touched by the steeper slopes are actually the access road that's already approved with the access for Golden Eagle. We have one small area over on the far right, so we can get that information. So that makes sense. I don't really see many more. We'll go over that with Thomas also to see if he knows anything that's coming up. And then, we would have to, we're open to working with something on the west side there. I don't know if can we show that map or the
Alicia, if you scroll up to the one above this one, that is that map. You'll see it on that page there.
So yeah, I guess with this one also, not opposed to it, but what is your reasoning? What are your thoughts behind that? What are you trying to accomplish?
Well, we're upzoning one side, obviously. And so we're going, in my view, much higher density on the east side than it's already zoned for. And so my thinking is, a little give, I think, as another commissioner mentioned, a little give, a little get.
Yeah.
I'm not saying nothing, okay?
Yep.
But maybe instead of 25, if I'm counting right, maybe it's 15, or,
Yeah.
because nobody wants to, I think it's very reasonable to want a house, a couple of guest houses, a barn, maybe some kind of, other accessory building. I don't think anybody's got a problem with that. We just would like to see a little more balance, a little higher density one side, a little lower on the other. And that's my personal view. Other commissioners may think differently.
Fair. And I agree. It's an estate-like house. You're not going to want to be surrounded by other houses. One of the reasons that this really interests us, I've been in Park City 23 years. I just feel in another 20 years, having a property like this will be, an ideal piece of property to have, looking that far into the future. And so, having townhomes, houses right up to your doorstep takes away from the long-term value. So it's not something that we're opposed to. We'll see what we can do on our side. If it was like road visibility, you're going to obviously take away the density around the house, right? So you'll lose 1, 2, 3, 4, you'll lose 10, but they're really around the house and up on the back. You keep everything on the front face where the view is. So if you're trying to, make it more open potentially, it's like, I don't know if that's solving like that worry, but we're willing to look into it and see what we can, if it's something that's easily doable on our side and, look at it. So I understand where you're coming from on that.
You might ask my fellow commissioners their thoughts on that as well. They may have different thoughts, but those are just mine.
Yeah.
And anyone who comes to doing anything on this property needs to come to you guys and say and propose it. So whether it's us or some tragic event happens and we are no longer around and someone gets the land, they're going to have to come to you guys to talk about it. And the city may have different focuses then, and we trust that the city will do with that piece of land what is best for the city at that point. Lots of things can change in 5, 10, 15, 20 years. But we are happy. We are very authentic. This is our essence of what we want to get done. And my only fear is the holdup of the task at hand when we really have no plan to even put one more house on there. But if that's what it needs to get taken to make it feel fair, or that if that's what is needed, we're totally open to having that conversation. And yeah, thank you for letting us know.
Thank you for asking.
Yes, I have to agree with Jonathan in regards to the flat roofs. And I have to say, my point of view is just mostly aesthetics. Although I think if then you also going down the road, you have issues. People want to put decks on top, you know, that leads to grills up there, which leads to fire hazards. And then the other issue I have is I just have a real issue with the whole parcel, the whole property being nightly rentals. To me, I think that's just too much.
And what, yeah, just to drill down on that, what are your fears?
Well, first of all, we don't have it in the town. And I think if we're going to go down that road, I don't think we should go down it with the whole kit and caboodle, so to speak, in one shot for a property this large, to see how it works and how it pans out for the town. Basically, that's it. You know, it's a road we haven't traveled in the town. And still some question if we even will.
Sorry, Tony. I agree with Tony. I mean, it's a going from a town that has no nightly rentals to this seems like an enormous leap. And I'm assuming that without nightly rentals, you guys would not proceed, right?
So we agree with you that this is a very important topic, and we would hate to be living in a community and a house and get surprised all of a sudden there's nightly rentals. The difference right now is this is a new development in Hideout versus we're trying to rezone current houses where the community has come in with a promise. So this is an awesome opportunity as a new development. So I do want to clarify the difference between what you're discussing as the whole of Hideout versus this new development, because it may be that in your discussion, you allow it for new moving forward and not for old. Like, it doesn't need to be a blanket. This needs to be what is fair to people living in this community. And great. As far as this development, we are financially looking at it as a resort development versus residential. Some financial impacts of that is infrastructure. There is a PID that we will be going for, and the way the public infrastructure deed is allocated and programmed is on property tax revenue. So if the 96 townhomes are 100% year-round living, it's about a half a property tax that get paid back for the infrastructure. If 50% of them are not year-round living and second homes, or a higher proportion, that can translate to millions more that we can get for infrastructure. We would be happy to, in our master development agreement, and I'm just going to use these as rough numbers, but let's say the example of the density that can be used without short-term rentals allowed gets us a $9 million infrastructure. And with short-term rentals allowed, we get $10 million or $11 million for infrastructure. We would be happy to give, let's say, a quarter of that to the city, above 9 million, for the granting us the short-term rentals and helping us get the money for infrastructure to make this viable, but also giving the city a win as well. To them. So we're open to talk about how the economics of a resort development can help the city, which can help all the residential people that live there as well, by having a city that is also benefiting from it too.
But Jen, here's a problem that, we open it. Okay, let's say for some reason, if we vote to let you have your whole property, nightly rentals. That just opens the door for every other community to come up to us and say, well, they got it, so we want it. And I don't think the town is ready to deal with that. And I don't know if from a personal perspective, I don't want to deal with it.
So understood. I feel like the difference would be this is coming from scratch. Everyone that would be buying in here knows what the development is. Also, if you remember, we're like the casitas, for instance, we plan a very high-end resort. Like different properties around the country, Post Ranch Inn or Enchantment in Sedona. You know, this is something that fits with the land. And then, yes, nightly rentals are important. Tony, if we can't do nightly rentals here, then it ends up being probably 80 1-acre lots, which honestly is financially devastating for the town. This is the town's quickest, best revenue generating piece of property that we have. It's right there on the highway. It's separated from everything below the highway. You don't even see it. You know, this is, as an opportunity for the city, if you're going to do it, this is, in my mind, the best possible place to, with a very high, financial benefit to the town as well.
And just to
Well-
clarify what Ryan's saying is, it's zone residential and you could build just residential, no commercial, no hotel. And we are open to being wrong. I saw Jen say disagree. So I do. This is the communication. If we want to be educated, we want to educate everyone from our side. And so would love to be educated on, sorry, I'm plugging in my computer because the battery's low. There we go. Okay. And then Thomas and Alicia, can you pull up the zoning of the overall as well? Just because I feel like Tony has some great points, but I just want to be careful that we use the wording right, where he says the entire thing is overnight rentals. If you look here, the NMU has a hotel, so obviously it's a hotel. The casitas on the top right are a casita resort. They are not individual tax parcels. They have one owner and they're a hotel too.
Yeah, but that's nightly rentals.
Can I interject?
You guys are you're sugarcoating that. That is nightly rentals.
No, we're not sugarcoating it. What I'm saying is,
We have some
take
awesome
nightly
opportunities ahead of us with MIDA and collaboration. And for you to make these assertions that this is the only solution for the town, I disagree with that.
I didn't say this was the only.
Oh
I
my
did
gosh,
not.
Jen, I love
Sorry,
this.
Jen, we can replay it.
Okay,
This
that's
is
what I
fantastic.
disagreed with. It's
Oh,
not
perfect.
the
This is a-
only option.
I said this is a fantastic, I did not say only.
He may have
Okay.
said it. He didn't mean
It
it.
didn't mean only. This is a fantastic option for the town. This is accessible to all the residents. This is on the same side of the lake as I think everyone that lives here and owns in Hideout. So
We
that's what I'm
want
saying.
your success. We want a hotel in town. I'm your supporter. It's just when you say this is the end all be all. We have some amazing opportunities ahead of us with MIDA collaboration.
Understood.
And we want to work collaboratively with the best option for the best result.
Couldn't agree more.
And sorry it was taken like that. We are so passionate about Hideout and excited to collaborate. Even with people close to Hideout, we talked to BlackRock and they are so excited. Their next building they're building right now has a 700-person event space, and they are so excited to work with us and having a hotel and having casitas and having townhomes that families can rent when their kids are playing in the ice hockey rink that will be ready in the next 12 months. So we are very collaborative to all rise together and bring something here that is going to help bring conferences, events, and having options in an ecosystem for someone to stay in a under 500 square foot hotel room or stay in a townhome that is 4-bedroom and they can have a couple of families come, or stay in a casita that they may want to. It just, this whole ecosystem, it's a resort ecosystem. short-term rentals. There's no sugarcoating it. It is a resort hotel, whether it's short-term, it's people who want to spend money to have a room to go and experience a beautiful, amazing place. So no sugarcoating. Calling it resort to me is short-term rental. People come for a day, they come longer. So hopefully that we're not trying to hide anything. We're just here to work with you guys, and we're excited.
Excuse me, Jenny, I'm not sure if I just want to make sure I heard you correctly. The 25, this is Donna.
Hey, Donna.
See by your screen. The 25 single family homes on the 1 acre, are they nightly rentals?
Oh,
No,
the 25 single family homes. Are you talking about?
it's mountain.
MR, where around your property there?
No.
Yeah, so
On the
mountain
west side.
residential, and Donna, those 25, we went to our land planner because someone on the planning commission asked, what is the worst case scenario? So it's a 42 acre property. And when you hear that it's zoned for 1 house per acre, you think that that will allow 42 units of density.
Okay.
It doesn't actually. With the coding, it has to be 1 acre or more, and there's certain feet frontage. And so we went to the land planner and we said, stack this full. I hate this image. It gives me anxiety. I never, ever want to do this. But what it does is show the worst case scenario of what can be put on this as currently zoned. So if we don't change a thing, it can be in the development agreement that no more than 25 units can be put on this by us. We don't want to do that. And what others are suggesting is saying 15 or something like that. So we're open to that conversation. We just have zero energy, intention. We're not paying, going down that track with engineers and doing all the things that you need to do to get a master development plan on this. We have it untouched. If we were to spend energy on it, we would love to do it right and work out what it is meant to do. We just aren't there, don't want to do it, have no plans to do it. So, but we do hear the concerns of people putting a limit on. We are being very authentic. So the limit is not, we don't have any plans for it. We just, you're just feeling the pushback because we're just so not focused on it. It's not because we want to turn around and put 600 units on it or anything like that.
Right. So you're gonna keep it, right? That would be the worst case scenario on there, and that is not nightly rentals. So that's going to be the usual what we are here and mostly in Hideout, which is very limited long-term rentals. It would be correct.
Yeah, and we also did that to show worst case scenario. So with those units, I think we're at 280 for the whole piece of property when the prior plan from prior developer was 600. So even with that worst case, we're less than half.
No, I realize that.
Yeah.
I was very much involved with the prior. So yeah, it's definitely half. A couple, just one other, I wanted to just make a few comments if that's okay.
Yeah.
Back to the real quick we could talk more about the nightly rentals, but back to the flat roofs. I do have experiences with the flat roofs, East Coast. They are more difficult to maintain. They do tend to leak more. They have to have a more frequent maintenance to them. And again, aesthetically, they're not really aesthetically pleasing. So that is my take on that. I agree, with Tony, and I may have been, and I brought up about the flat roof in the, 2 previous discussions about the commercial. It just looks very industrial. And there is a way, our daughter and son-in-law own a condo in Philadelphia, and they have a flat roof with a climbing wall on the top. They do have like an area, sitting area. It's more for the entire building. It does have a grill. I believe it does have a couple grills up there, but this is the city of Philadelphia. But what they did is on the sides, it wasn't totally flat along the side. It is flat up top, but it's the facade on the sides they had different facades. So it didn't look flat from the outside, but you walked up there and it was flat. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you know, that's another way to get around it, but I would like to see not as many flat roofs if
Okay.
possible.
Definitely going to pick my battles on this, and that was not one of them. So
Okay.
we're okay, with that. And, we just want
Okay.
to design an aesthetically pleasing product so that every time we drive by it, we're proud of it. That's really that's our main goal.
And the other thing, I believe I read a previous meeting, I was not at the previous meeting, but I did read the minutes. So the amphitheater parking will be a grass parking, is that correct?
So that's overflow parking. There is enough, there hopefully it's a 300-ish to 500 seat with the community
Okay.
and trails. Hopefully the parking that's in the commercial 236 spots on a weekend afternoon would be enough, but there's overflow plan that the grass area could use that.
Okay.
If that's helpful.
And all the amenities here are they will be open to Hideout residents, correct?
What amenities?
Well, you said, oh, there's going to be maybe the Santa, different things happening, the amphitheater. What if we wanted to rent a casita?
So
Get a discount.
I wouldn't say all the events. We could, a corporate event may, or a wedding may want to
Sure.
be at the top, but yeah,
I'm not a wedding crasher.
Yes, that's our goal with this, is to hold community
events, but also maybe being able to be rented out too. And that would be in the master development agreement of what the hours, and get really defined on that too.
Okay.
That's a good thing to bring up as well. I do want to say, just since this is a public meeting, that we would love to please everyone, but we can't please everyone. And I am mama bear on this for the ethos and reason that we're doing this, and good and bad. Some things are going to just have to be left out, and some things are going to come in. But the soul of this is to have an amazing boutique resort community. And if that doesn't fit with what the community wants, I have a 6-year-old and 12-year-old and want to enjoy my life with them for the next few years. I don't need to fight it. So we get it, and we get that there's a lot of things that is wanted. But to get this done, we may have to win on several together, and there may be some that isn't perfect for this property, but we can let other developers take on and do. And we don't want to harm anyone. So if there's something negative and it doesn't work out and it doesn't fit this community, great. So we really appreciate you guys bringing it up, but I just thought that was important to let you all know. I want to go to sleep at night and want everyone to be happy, but if I can't keep everyone happy, it's not the best life to not sleep at night.
You two are doing a great job. Okay, I do. You've really laid this out very well. One more item. I did have a question about the connection between. How are you planning on connecting this resort community to Hideout?
So right now, we have the plan of. So there's Hideout on the top left, and then on the bottom right is Tuhei, and at the top is Golden Eagle. So they're really the 3 big communities that we'd love to have connection to the commercial village. Right now we have trails planned to connect to those if there's enough density, and to put traffic lights at each of those stops. That would be the easiest plan to connect. Obviously, the city could come up with a plan of an underpass or overpass. We have committed to a % of money that we'd give to that if they came up with a plan and had it come to fruition. So that would be in the master development agreement too, and negotiated. So that's the highest level on those sort of plans.
Ryan, I have one more question before we open this up for public comment.
Okay.
When will you be able to share with us who your partner is in the hotel?
They actually, we talked to them today. They said that they would be more than willing to email Jan and the mayor and you guys. So yeah.
They just, they don't want it in a public space, so they would be happy to email Jen and the mayor, knowing that someone could come and ask for those emails and it would take some time. They want to announce it and come out themselves at the time that they want to come out. And so we are really respecting that. But
I have
they,
no problem with that. I just think it's important for the people who are going to be voting on this to have an idea as to who it is.
yeah, and I do want to say that I noticed a lot of other developers put commercial and hotel at the end. And we're leading with that. Like, we are, to have a hotel partner in a LOI this early on is a very hard thing to do. So we should not take it lightly. This hotel partner had they have other options in Park City as well that they could go to. And they are right now really believing in this and us. And yeah, it's not a small feat to be able to present to you guys and say we have this. So we're very excited about it. Yes. We will ask them. They're probably on here listening to this, maybe, I don't know. Or it's being recorded. So
Thank you.
very supportive of the whole.
Hey, Tony, can I ask a question? Go ahead.
If you send it in an email, that is discoverable, just so you know.
Exactly. And we told them that too. And they did still give us permission. We're being authentic with them. You don't want surprises for your partners. But they would love to help around knowledge that they just weren't ready to come on tonight and announce. Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Does any other commissioners have any other questions before?
Yeah, Tony, I have two questions. One, which I asked and I don't think you answered. You guys, it's nightly rentals or you're out? Or is there a way for you to do this where it's partial nightly rentals?
It's a resort. It wouldn't be a resort if you didn't have nightly rentals. I don't.
I'm just asking them if there's a plan B. Are you out? I want to know, are you out?
Yeah, if we can't get nightly rentals, it's a really big hit. We maybe wouldn't be out. We would maybe just change the land plan, because I love this land. We love the house.
We may have to add more density. Like, it may just change.
Or we just change, or we do, large estate, single family. If all of a sudden we can't do that, then I'd look at saying, okay, does 78,000 square foot houses with a barn make sense? And it might. That might make sense, but I don't want to do that. I'm really passionate. Or do we
take out the hotel and commercial and add 80 more townhomes?
So it'd be like shuffling the deck, right?
So if I can follow up on Peter's question, let's say you do the casita resort and the hotel resort as two separate entities with nightly rentals. And then the townhouses be, permanent residences, full-time residences, the single family residences be full-time. What are your thoughts on that?
We don't know. We'd have to go back and run a pro forma on what it is. There's just different numbers on infrastructure. There's different numbers on the traffic study on a resort community versus a residential community. That would have to all be rerun, which is different requirements from UDOT. The sequence of events that it changes is significant in timing. We love the land. We're going to get this land. We're going to do something on it. But with this plan, it is part of this plan, if that's helpful. But we're not trying to hold a gun to you guys and say you have to do it. It's just we want what's on this land to fit with the community and what they want. And it needs to fit with financials. And there's a lot of moving parts behind the scenes that we just believe in education. We really believe we're listening to what the land and community want, and that we just believe if we can educate, we can help overcome fears too.
So go ahead, Peter.
I have two more quick questions. So the neighboring to Golden Eagle, right? How close are homes to that property line? Do you know?
Yeah, we do have an overlay with that.
That I can pull up.
Now, we may have some Golden Eagle residents. I don't know who's waiting for public comment. We have done a call with them. There you go.
I just pulled it up, and now I need to get back to the Zoom. How do I find them to share? Oh my gosh. Where are you guys? Can you see us?
We can see you.
We can see you. We lost the map.
Can't see our
Oh, there
screen.
it is. Okay, I'm
Yeah,
gonna.
there's nothing sharing, if that's what you're asking.
There we
Okay,
go.
There we go.
Should be able to pick that window.
Okay, so, and I'm,
Okay, now I can't see what they see. Can you guys see something?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
see
What
a
do
lot
you
of red. All those red dots are homes.
that's
Okay, I
Golden
can't see
Eagle.
it, but-
Yeah,
That's Golden Eagle.
that's Golden Eagle.
That's right. That's what I'm asking. So, can you zoom in a little bit? So you do have homes right abutting this property. Okay, I
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is, did you say that you have a bank loan lined up? You have a commitment signed? You have a term sheet? Could you be a little more specific on
Yeah, we have a
financing?
lender, and that we have had to give proof to the purchases on, so we're very, yeah, we have the financial
A
back.
term, but you have a term sheet? You have a commitment? What
Yes,
specifically do you have?
We have a commitment. Our lender's been out here twice.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, the second visit, we just dropped him off at the airport at 2:30 today. And the plan that we have, they're very excited about.
And it's
So-
not just for the purchase of the land, it's for the commitment for the development too, which,
And-
So they're making you a land loan and a development, they're committed to a land loan and a development loan?
Yes, and this is a lender that I've worked for the last 12 years. So this isn't just somebody we found. We already have a strong working relationship with them.
so there's a phase one loan of the land, but then for us to do the casita resort, the single family homes, like that's additional. So we have that as well.
And then I do have one last question. Is the hotel gonna own their own parcel?
Yes,
Or- Okay,
yeah. I don't think we answered that correctly. I don't think I understood your question in the last meeting, but yes, they're a hotel developer with the
Right.
flood. And so they're gonna buy that parcel from us, and then it's in their hands from there.
and then then they're coming before us for approval and the whole thing,
Exactly. Yes,
independent of you. Got it. Okay, thank you. I appreciate you indulging my questions. Thank you.
I just want to clarify what you said there, just to make sure I understand right. The hotel.
Jen, I'm gonna need you to wrap this up.
Okay, the hotel partner is not coming for approvals. We are getting it zoned approved for a hotel of 120 keys.
Right.
And they are purchasing that land that is zoned off us and ready to build. So they will not be coming for approval for the 120 keys. That's what we're getting before we can close with them.
But they'll be
design
coming for
approval.
design approval. That's what I'm talking about.
They, or does the
Yes.
developer CCNR?
they go through all the city and.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
that's
okay, thank you.
great.
Building.
I understand. We can
I
move
just want
on.
to make sure everything is correct. Okay.
Yeah, I got it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Okay, there being no further questions from the commission, we will now open this up for public discussion. If you are on the telephone, you could use *9. If you're on your PC, you can use alternate and Y. A Mac is option Y to participate in the discussion. Just please state your name and where you live before your question, please. Thank you. I don't see anybody who has a hand up or anything, but we'll give it another minute or so.
Just to reiterate, if you have a question or a comment, to raise your hand, there's Zoom functions to raise your hand, or *9 if you're on the phone.
Mr. Gruber,
Yes, my name's Jim Gruber. I live at 452 Overlook in Hideout. And I don't know if it's right or wrong with the rental. I just like some clarification. So if if there's no rental of the townhouses, does Hideout have a policy where they have like a limited amount of rental, like instead of every night of the year they can rent it? Can they rent it for like 20 days a year or 30 days a year? Do they have a policy like that?
Yeah,
At the present time, there is no nightly rentals allowed in the town.
Okay.
and to just take that one step further, right now, no nightly rentals, and any rentals would have to be greater than 30 days. So it would have to be a minimum of a month. So essentially no nightly rentals. That's correct.
So no nightly, just long term.
That's right. 30 days plus, greater than 30.
Are there any other questions from the public? Okay.
I will say, the last one we've done, just to reiterate, maybe follow up. We did do a call with a lot of Golden Eagle residences and been trying to talk to a lot
Ryan,
of.
if you could just hang on a minute. All right.
I'm just pretty
There
music.
being
Go
no
ahead,
further
Tony.
questions. We will close the public comment portion of this discussion. Ryan, go ahead now, please.
No, go ahead. I was just buying a little time, waiting for anyone to raise their hand. So you're up.
It's closed now, so that's it. Thank you, guys.
Just what kind of comments did the people from Golden Eagle have, just out of curiosity?
Yes. So their biggest fear was they had heard that it was like a 2,500 person amphitheater. They were worried about that. They were worried about the hotel, an impact that it might have on their views. And both of those, they felt very happy with this plan, and the hotel is on the other side of the hill, so likely won't be visible from the majority of the homes. And then they like the smaller, more community size of an amphitheater, where it's just for us and not holding big regional concerts and events that would go late into the night. So those were probably the two biggest input items.
And we did, on the Hideout Community Preservation Facebook page, there was a post there about this development. There were 8 comments last time I looked, and all very in support of us. So would love you guys to go look at that. We were blown away by the support on that Facebook page and the comments of that. We also have received several emails after presenting, just saying that people are really in support of this. We've had comments and discussions on the side about the short-term rentals and the potential to even add in the MDA that the developer has to choose the property management company. Maybe we can control that so it's not just a free-for-all, and so we can keep standards of how it would be rented out and property managed as well. So we really feel like we've had some really great conversations, and it's ended up with support and understanding. That it was a 4-hour Zoom with about 30 residents, and by the end we ended up going to dinner with several, and one of them was giving us great ideas about holding events, and so that's where we changed a few of the concepts from that for the last meeting too. So it's been very supportive.
Thank you, Jim. All right, on to the next item. The work session. Thomas and Polly, I have a question. Considering the late hour, is there any reason why we cannot put this over till next month's meeting?
We can do that. Polly, did you have something to say? Sorry.
I was just going to say, legally you can. I didn't know, Thomas, you're kind of more in control of the, what needs to get looked at. So
would it be possible if we spent maybe like 4 to 5 minutes on it, just so I could get a little bit of guidance, that would help me for the next meeting. I won't go through the report, but if Alicia could just go to one page, keep going down, Alicia, just to make sure that I heard correctly what you all outlined at the last meeting. Keep going down, sorry. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Really what we are looking at with regard to this ordinance is the opportunity, sorry, right there, is the opportunity to have an ordinance in place should somebody want to come in and request a rezone of this overlay over their development. So this ordinance, as outlined, is not geographic specific in any way. It's an ordinance with conditions and criteria and minimal standards for short-term rentals. Should somebody wish to come in and ask for it, i.e. Nate Brockbank has discussed this with you guys in prior concept review sessions regarding phase 8 as cottages. At the last meeting, he talked about a larger envelope, a larger overlay, if you will, for Deer Springs. That is not the discussion that we're having tonight. This is just if you had an overlay ordinance for nightly rentals. Let me back up. If you wanted to have an overlay ordinance to allow nightly rentals for some resort areas, does this generally cover it? And I just wanted to outline some of what we've incorporated in here to make sure that if you decided to move forward with this, that you would be protected. You could see there the criteria for the short-term rental overlay district. If you scroll up just a little bit, Alicia, you know, they have to certainly meet the existing standards. It cannot be located in an established residential neighborhood, limited to dwellings of less than 2,000 square feet. You can I won't read through all of those, but if you guys just take a look at those, a minimum of 4 consecutive days. We had originally talked about a week based on last month's meeting. We put that down at 4 days, but it's not an in-out single night or just a 2-night weekend, just to try to create a more transitional opportunity for nightly rentals if they were to be located in town. Does this generally look like a set of criteria that you guys could generally live with? Are we missing something? And if so, just let us know. We'll start to explore it before the next meeting. This is not a public hearing. This is just a work session to give us a little bit of direction. But I know that there are some who will probably be looking closely at this and may want to use the overlay down the road. So time is of the essence a bit.
So basically any like shoreline or rustler, somewhere that's already established, this would not apply?
This would not apply because that's in an established residential neighborhood. So
Right.
how we define established, that might be worth vetting that out a little bit before the next meeting. But also, just so you're clear, Shoreline and Rustler are part of the master HOA. They disallow nightly rentals. They do not allow them anyway. Yeah,
But
so this couldn't be applied there.
Thomas, isn't the developer of Deer Springs looking for nightly rentals in one of his next phases? I mean,
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
That
So
was
then
the
this idea of it not being in established neighborhoods doesn't really work for him.
Well, that is a neighborhood that is currently being built. And so again, how we define established, I guess, is something that we may want to vet, or that I should probably put a little bit of meat on that bone before I bring it back to you. But initially the discussion was for phase 8 on the other side of Jordanelle Parkway, the cottages. But then at the last meeting, he kind of indicated that he wanted it for a larger area, kind of all of Bellevue Way between Jordanelle and Shoreline Drive. And so that was a much larger request than we had originally heard.
And phase 1 already is, it's already allowed there.
Phase 1 has it because of a plat note that it was recorded with a plat note that did allow it. Yeah.
Well, Shoreline isn't finished yet. Shoreline 2.
Shoreline is
Right.
not, but keep in mind, Shoreline's in the master HOA, and the master HOA does not allow nightly rentals.
Ah.
Yeah.
So the
So
entire.
they couldn't come to us. They
Yeah.
couldn't come to us for a new phase. Got it.
No,
So
nothing-
there's not really too much that this would apply to.
Well, it could apply to, you heard Bloom tonight. Bloom could ask for it.
Correct.
It could
Correct.
apply to Deer Springs. Deer Waters could come back and ask for it. The development next to Lakeview. Lakeview could come in and ask for it. And those would be about the only ones. Claim already allows nightly rentals. It was part of their HOA and MDA structure when they came in, I guess, 2017, 18, I think it was. So they already allow nightly rentals as well. But yeah, Lakeview, Deer Waters, Deer Springs could in theory come back and ask for it. Deer Waters is already developed. I would say it's an established neighborhood. Claim built, established neighborhood. Lakeview is not built, but it's between a couple of established neighborhoods. So yeah, I guess you would really kind of be looking at Deer Springs, potentially Lakeview, and future annexation areas potentially.
But I think it's
Doesn't
tough.
the-
I mean, yeah. Go
2,000
ahead. Sorry.
square foot restriction seems to eliminate most of the properties anyway.
Yeah, if you kept that in there, it really applies to really cottages and smaller units. That's exactly right. If you increase that, well, then you open up the opportunities significantly. Yeah.
I get, but I mean, I don't know. I think people that buy in Hideout, or buy, one of the things that makes it attractive is generally, there's no nightly rentals. Even if it's not your neighbor and your backyard, you just know there's less traffic, there's less people, and that's one of the attractions. Start that. I don't know. This to me seems
Right,
like.
But again, we're talking Hideout now, that's established areas, and the majority of Hideout doesn't allow nightly rentals. I'm thinking if we open up new areas like that space above the Jordanelle Parkway, that could be a great test for us to see if it works in pocket areas of Hideout.
When you say the space above the Jordanelle Parkway, what are we talking? Are we talking about the road that Bellevue connects and the tiering that's going on in there, where there's going to be a bunch? I mean, but that's attached to an established neighborhood.
No, it's Thomas, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't that on I guess that is the west side of the Jordanelle Parkway?
Yeah, it's called phase 8 of the Deer Springs development. It's actually on the west side, as you just noted, at the west side of Jordanelle Parkway. It's a small area that could be a test case for nightly rentals. That's kind of really where we started this a couple of months ago, because Nate Brockbank, the developer, said he's got the approval to do, I think, 34 townhouses. We really worked hard with him. Could he convert those to cottages and give us a slightly different housing typology in the community? He said yes, but he'd have to look at a nightly rental option. People started on both planning commission and town council kind of generally gave a head nod. Well, it's separate. It's on the other side of Jordanelle Parkway. It's not connected to a neighborhood. We would consider it. That's where this whole thing started. So last month, when Nate asked for, well, maybe I'd like most of Deer Springs to be nightly rental, I think that probably threw the planning commission into a little bit of disarray, just because I don't think that was anticipated, right? We were really just looking at phase 8. So to answer your question, yeah, phase 8 is on the other side of Jordanelle Parkway, disconnected from the other part of Deer Springs in this community. So it could be a good test case.
I think we need to be cognizant of the results of the recent survey the town sent out. One of the questions addressed nightly rentals, and while it wasn't targeted very well, it seems to me that the sentiment it was running, correct me if I'm wrong, Thomas, at least 2-to-1 against nightly rentals. And so I think nightly rentals in a new community is one thing, but allowing nightly rentals in existing communities requires some really careful consideration of the impacts to the local residents. I, for one, are solidly against that in an existing community. And if we're going to move forward with anything in new communities, I think it's essential that there be a steep penalty structure. And I think it needs to include a 3 strikes and you're out for a year clause. You violate the rules 3 times and that's it. You're suspended from rental for a year, because otherwise I think this has a chance to get way out of hand. I think you know.
Hey, Jonathan, could I talk about that for a second? Because when I was looking at this, I was thinking, who's gonna police this 2,000 square feet for consecutive nights? Like, how are we ever gonna really know that these rules are being followed?
Well, that's a good point. We're going to have to, if you're going to allow it, just like anything else, if you're going to allow fireworks, you're going to have to police the fireworks. If you're going to allow picnicking, we're going to have to figure out a scheme, and maybe part of the fee, the license fee, or the royalty, whatever it is. And I don't want to get into financial matters because I think that's outside of the scope of this group. But I think enforcement and monitoring is important. I know there are software programs that can monitor whether or not you're doing nightly rentals. I'm sure a little research, we can look at what other communities do, but without enforcement, there are no rules.
Right.
And we've seen that time and time again in other cities. And so the idea that we might apply this to existing communities, I think we're going to have people with pitchforks and torches beating down town hall. And candidly, I'll be one of them. So I've said my piece. I'm firmly against it in existing communities.
Yeah, and this is written so that it would be in non-established, non-existing neighborhoods. And we might, again, I think that probably bears worth clarifying, that letter B right there. And also, Jonathan, to your point, Alicia, if you could scroll up, letter H does note that the 3 strikes, you are out for a year down here. Yeah.
And just to give you some background, there is something called Granicus that does monitor nightly rentals. They monitor the kind of Airbnb, the internet postings, and help municipalities evaluate if people are skirting the rules or making sure that they're licensed, that kind of thing. So there are some enforcement tools that are out there. Nothing's perfect, but just to give you that background.
It's helpful. Thank you.
And Alicia, if you could just scroll up and maybe a page, you can, just so all of it, keep the other way, I'm sorry, to the survey results, just so everyone's aware of them. You're right, Jonathan. It was about 2/3 were against, 1/3 was in support. And again, it wasn't clear with regard to established or not, but I'm going to suspect most people did not want a nightly rental to pop up next to their existing house. Fair, I think, well heard. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think if we reran this survey with a tightly focused question, I'd be surprised if that 66% doesn't go up to 80 or 90.
Agreed. Okay, well, maybe what we'll do, I know the hour is late. I'll try to maybe add a little bit of language to this, get a little bit more clarity, and then we'll bring this back. But maybe between now and next month, be thinking about, maybe inquire with people what their feelings might be. But if it were in a non-established and non-built neighborhood, again, let's use the other side of Jordanelle Parkway. Is that something you guys could get behind? And that would be worth developing an ordinance and enacting an ordinance like this. Again, they would have to come in and request a review from you and the town council for that rezone. But think about if this is something you would want to pursue, and if we would need to be much more restrictive or specific, let us know.
Excuse me, Thomas, can we suggest instead of 4 consecutive 4 nights minimum, or minimum, can we make it a week, 7-night minimum?
It's interesting. That's what we had in there, was a week the last time. And then some folks thought that could just be a very, very long vacation to ask some people to take, especially families that might have kids and maybe don't have maybe enough funds for a full week, but they might go for 5 days. And so we changed it to 4. But absolutely, if you guys said, let's do week to week, call it done. It's a Saturday to Saturday, that could absolutely be put in there.
Well, you know that works at the Jersey Shore.
Yep, that's right. That's right.
The Hamptons is
And I'm
Hamptons
laughing,
is
so-
2 weeks. Hamptons is 2 weeks minimum.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, so keep that in the back of your mind, because if that's something if you all want, think about it over the course of the next 30 days.
I think
Thomas,
I think there may be some value. We'd have to talk to the mayor, but I think there may be some value of polling the community on this, just to make sure we have the pulse of the community.
Okay. And I can coordinate with Alicia, Jan, and Kathleen as well. Yeah.
Can I just ask, is that different than when you say you want to poll the community? How is that different than what the
poll was.
poll we did? Just so-
Wasn't it very specific poll? I don't think people understood the whole issue.
Yeah, I
Agreed.
think we need to drill down and ask questions. And this is just off the top of my head. Number one, what is your position, yes or no, with respect to nightly rentals in established communities versus brand new communities where nobody has bought in? And then, at least to that point, because I think those are two finite separate issues, at least in my mind, they are.
I agree.
I think we need a couple questions about this, at least 2 or 3 questions, just to hone in to really get the pulse of the town. Although, right here, this, they could think, whoa, no, we don't want, Rustler to get nightly rentals. I mean, that's what I think that this question conveys.
Yeah, I think
Private
more
homes.
clarity could help. I think you could ask 2 or
Exactly.
3 questions to get to those answers, because I suspect that existing versus proposed development would probably fare differently in the opinion. I think you're right.
And
Tom,
also that under 2,000 square feet, that portion down below, I think that's a good clarifying
that's a
statement.
good limiter.
It's a good limiter, yes.
Yeah. So Thomas, is the idea that this overlay would apply to Bloom, or they get their own set of rules, or it's all up for conversation,
I think
right?
that this would apply to Bloom. So if this were to pass, this would apply to Bloom, although we would also incorporate language in their MDA, their master development agreement. But you wouldn't want to incorporate language into an MDA that would allow nightly rentals if the town didn't have an ordinance structure to allow it. So again, this is a both and. We would do this and probably wrap it into the MDA if that was the direction.
Sort of a little bit off course here, but the point who I think Jonathan made about, people who bought in and wouldn't want nightly rentals next to them, when looking at the first presentation right next to Deer, I always get them confused, those townhomes and single family homes. I don't think those people bought thinking there was going to be a commercial development at that corner.
Right.
And I think that devalues their property tremendously. And we should just keep that in mind as we proceed with that. Because I was actually shocked to see that was the plan, right next to somebody's house who guys just spent whatever, $1 million something for a house. And he's going to have a yoga studio and a coffee shop next to him with cars parked in front of his house. I'd be irate.
That's fair.
I would love to see those people weigh in with comments, because I'd love to hear their perspective.
Yeah.
Well, they may not actually live there full time since they're allowed to have nightly rentals.
And also, I'm not sure, were they allowed to comment? Because I thought we were just commenting on Bloom for public.
That's
comment.
all we were commenting on was, only thing
Right.
open for public comment was Bloom.
Right.
I was just bringing up that it's a similar analogy of the guy that owns a home doesn't want their nightly rental next door, and the people that bought those homes, I'm sure without any, forget whether they're rentals or not, without any expectation of having a commercial development right next door. But maybe not.
No, I think it's a good point.
That's what public comment is for.
Right.
There any other questions regarding this item on the agenda? Okay, there being none, would somebody like to make a motion?
Yes, I'd like to move that we end the meeting.
I second.
Thank you. Okay, we'll take a vote. Glynis,
Yes.
Donna,
Yes.
Jonathan,
Yes.
Rachel,
Yes.
Joel,
Yes.
and Peter.
Yes.
And Tony's a yes. Thank you all. Sorry for the late night. Next month, I'll try to adhere more to the half-hour time limit. But once you guys started with the questions, I didn't want to cut you guys off. It was meant
Thank
for
you.
them, not for us.
And it said that I should reboot the computer to try to fix the video, and I didn't want to lose everybody and not get back on.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.